Welcome to Nice and Blunt. I'm Adam Riancho, and it's week 18. We got some games this weekend, and let's set your lineup. Let's show you every ranking at every position. Let's go. All right, welcome in. Nice to see you. No time to waste. We're just going to show you everything, and that way when people are coming in late or after the video is posted, they can just come to the beginning and they'll see every position. So these are running back. I'll leave it up for a few more seconds. You can screenshot it if you would like. I'll also show you every other position, and then we'll come back to running back and break it down. So this is RB. Let's move on. We got wide receiver next, and I'll leave this up for like 5-10 seconds. And welcome in, Scott. Nice to see you. Okay, where do I have the chat located? We'll put it right here. But welcome in, man. Good afternoon. Is it the afternoon for you already? I guess you're on the East Coast. It's still 10 a.m. for me. But yeah, that's it. So this is wide receiver. Let's move on to QB. And I'm not really going super in-depth because it's still the beginning of the live stream. I'm going to let everyone come into the video, and then once we have like a more legit audience that will stay, we'll move on. But again, I'm just gonna leave this up here so if people that are viewing it later can see every position, and they can take a screenshot if they would need. But that's it for QB. Let's move on to tight end, and then I'll show you defense, and then we'll go back to running back and break it down. But Jamie, bonjour as well. Welcome. Nice to see you. And then lastly, we got defense. And we'll leave this up for another 10 or 15 seconds or so. Caleb, afternoon, are you worried about the Rams not playing the whole game? You know, only if the Niners win. I think if the Niners win, then there's really nothing for them to play for. So at the moment, you can't quite say definitively. But personally, I think based on their 2-game losing streak, Sean McVay looked pretty legitimately upset about it. I think they're going to play at least the first half. And then unless they're like in a blowout win, then I would expect them to keep playing. But I'm not too concerned about it. Angus says would love to see some early 2026 takes also. Projected first round, etc. Not in today's video. Gonna be totally honest with you. I would love to see that too, but just not today. Let's definitively finish the season, and that'll come in the coming weeks. I'm not gonna wait long to tell you that, but just not today. And then Jamie, how was your redraft season? Did you win any championships in redraft? Sadly, we had a team that would have won the championship in the Blunt League, but it got eliminated in the wild card round. It would have won the next 2 weeks, but no. I lost to River Rat, who did take home the championship. River Rat avenged last year's loss. And sadly, I did not win in my 2 redraft leagues. I only do 2. I don't go crazy on redraft, to be honest. But Angus, yes, I 100%. If you're still playing this week, you are a madman. You need to be lobbying your commissioner to change it. But Aaron, Happy New Year, Adam. Was a good year. Made it all the way to the end. Faced Henry and still almost pulled it off. Needed 10 points from Quorum to win. Dang, he got hurt too. That's a bummer. Sorry to hear that. But to make it just to the final is a big accomplishment. Congrats, Aaron. That's dope. I won 11 championships out of 28 Dynasty and 4 redraft. Nice. That's a good ratio, man. That's almost half. That's impressive. Nice. And then 77. I made back 1100 on Underdog. I put in about 18, and then with all my pick'em victories, I also got I broke even. I went over even on the year. But yeah. Anyways, this will be the last question, Chris, and then I'm gonna hit all of the rankings more in depth. We got second game of the championship down by 5 points, full PPR. Flex Gibbs, Chase Brown, Travion, Bucky. 2 running backs, 2 receivers, 1 flex. Okay. I'm going to go Gibbs, Chase Brown, and Travion. And then at receiver, give me Diggs and Pickens. Good luck, Chris. But let's go back to running back. Let's go through all the rankings one more time. And now let's only talk about rankings. No offense if you drop a comment. I'm only going to be focusing on the ranks. Let me pin a comment. Chat will be answered after the ranks. All right. And then let me just pin that to the top, and we will rip through this as fast as possible. There we go. All right, let's focus. So, running back, I think, is pretty straightforward at the top. Obviously, if you have some of the best names, these are the ones I would be trusting the most. Bijan, no-brainer. Bijan's obvious. Like, do I really need to go in depth on Bijan? I don't think so. Same with Christian McCaffrey. He's going to play. Seahawks matchup isn't great, but the 1 seed's on the line. The volume is not going to be in question, and I obviously trust Christian McCaffrey. I wouldn't be panicked. I still consider him the RB2. Above Derrick Henry, maybe the Steelers do step up. I'm not, like, really trusting Pittsburgh, to be honest, but Henry's just on a heater right now, and the quarterback plays suspect, so they're going to keep feeding him on the goal line. I would expect at least 2 touchdowns for Derrick Henry. But Chase Brown against the Cleveland Browns, that's going to be a easy win, in my opinion. I don't think the Bengals offense will be limited, and Chase Brown is just a beast. So Chase Brown's in my top 5. I want him for sure. And then Gibbs could go nuclear at any time, but lately has been playing a little bit down. So that's why I only have him at number 5, but still in the top tier. No question, you're starting him. The Bears, though, got embarrassed in week 2 by Detroit. I think this win would mean a lot to them. And then I also believe that with the 2 seed on the line, they're not going to give up at any point. So Gibbs, I just don't think he'll go nuclear. It's definitely possible, but we've seen some great games out of Brown and Henry lately. It's more likely you're still alive with Derrick Henry and Chase Brown than Jahmyr Gibbs. So he's number 5. ETN is at number 6. And against the Tennessee Titans, this should be a very good game. But it's just a little crowded in that team sometimes. And there's a world where if they're up big at halftime, like Byshal Tutin's healthy enough to play, I could see a lot of Byshal Tutin, maybe even LaQuint Allen, because this could be like a blowout type of game. I don't feel confident that the Titans will like compete the entire time. So that is the risk with ETN. Enough not to rank him top 5, but at number 6, no way I'm benching him. Should play amazing. Kyron, we have expected to play, but not a guarantee. There's an injury to Blake Corum. So I do believe the Rams will try to win this game. And even if they bench people in the third quarter because they're up massively, that would involve them also playing really well. So touchdowns galore with no Adams, in my opinion. Kyron should be a great play. I don't think Corum will play. We got RJ Harvey right behind him against the Chargers. We'll see how long it takes them to lock up that win. Until it happens, Harvey will stay on the field, and touchdowns pretty guaranteed for RJ Harvey. Then we got Jonathan Taylor against the Texans. There's times when he dominates the Texans. There's also been games when they've limited him, and then he also just hasn't been the same since the bye week. So with Riley Leonard, I could see this be like a 30-touch game for Taylor, but then I could also see the Texans just limit the entire offense. Like, there's a world where even on 20 touches, he gets less than 85 yards. You know, like there's a chance we're only averaging like 4 yards per touch from Taylor this week. So good luck on that. I think touchdowns are a little bit key, but the volume should definitely be there. Definitely still top 10. DeAndre Swift is popping off against that Niners defense. He played really well, and I think it would likely continue yet again. Monangai has been fading a little bit. So Swift, I definitely trust in a must win against the Lions. That defense is not scary anymore. So give me Swift as a top 10 play. And then Travion, I'm going to trust a little bit more than Ramondre. I think if they lock up the win over Miami earlier on in the game, then they'll lean more on Travion than Ramondre. So expect some house calls. I don't fear the Dolphins defense. But then Jalen Warren and Kenny Gainwell I have in the top 13. Definitely players I want against the Ravens with no Metcalf. They have to pivot their strategy. Last week they didn't run the ball enough. I think Warren and Gainwell will show up. They have to. I think they'll compete. I want both Steelers running back in my lineup. So Gainwell right behind Warren. I think the volume just slightly favors Warren. So that's my preference this week. But both I think are top 15. And then I have Walker at 14. And then Charbonnet also at 15. So both Seahawks running backs in my top 15 as well. I know that they're going to finish the game. I want them in my lineup. But literally starting with Tank Bigsby at RB16, now it's like, I don't know how much these players are going to suit up. So I'm of the belief that Saquon is going to be benched by the second drive. I really don't see more than like 10 snaps for Saquon. So I think it's the Tank Bigsby show. I want him against the Commanders. Good matchup. I want Tank Bigsby for sure. I also want Emmanuel Wilson. I don't trust Jacobs to play. That feels insane to bet on. So maybe this is a Chris Brooks game, but I'm just going to bet on Emmanuel Wilson. I think he's the main running back this week. I trust the volume. Vikings matchup's not good, but the volume is going to be there. I would trust a touchdown for the Packers RB1. I believe it's Wilson. Then we got Ramondre, who I think will start the game strong, but I think we'll get benched by the third quarter. I don't think the Dolphins will compete. There's a lot of injuries for them, and then I really think Trayvon's going to take over. So Ramondre, I think, will start off better and then take a seat on the bench, and then Trayvon will just outpace him. So I would start both. I think Ramondre is also top 20. If he doesn't get benched, he could be top 10 this week. Absolutely good upside, good floor. Only concern is fourth quarter. Is he on the field? That is why I'd rather go Trayvon. But then we got James Cook, who really I wouldn't expect on the field in the second quarter or later. If you're telling me the Bills need him on the field to beat the Jets longer than like 2 drives, that would really shock me. So he can do a lot of damage on just like 5 touches. I could easily see like he get benched in the second drive after he puts up like a 60-yard house call. So James Cook is going to have to do it all in the first quarter. That's why I still rank him top 20. But genuinely, I am very concerned about the floor of James Cook. Not a player I'm like dying to trust, to be totally honest with you. So good luck there. I don't really know what to make of that. But against the Jets, it's an awesome matchup. So I don't think you can like fully bench him. But there's no way I'm going to tell you he's a top 10 play with the expected benching. Maybe I'm not reading the tea leaves correctly, but the Bills are a team that can definitely do that. Probably should. I think the 7 seed is actually more appealing in the AFC than the 6 or 5. I would much rather get the Patriots or Broncos than the Jags, Texans, or even Ravens. I mean, maybe not the Ravens, but the bracket involving the AFC South, I think, is more scary than the 7 seed. So I don't think James Cook will finish the game. Good luck on that. Very risky play, but the upside's elite. The matchup's great. I understand I have to rank him. Still top 20, but more of a flex play in my opinion, not like a lock. I'd rather trust Tank Bigsby. And then Tony Pollard hasn't playing great, but it could be a Tyjae Spears game. The Jags matchup's really bad, so I don't know what to make of that. I think he'll probably come close to another 100-yard game. He's been doing that really consistently, but to go over 100, that I wouldn't bet on. A touchdown against the Jags, that's also a bad bet. So only RB20, playing very well, but to be honest, I'm worried about Pollard. So literally every player after this point I think is risky as fuck. Major red flags, good effing luck. But then we got Breece Hall against the Bills. That's been a great matchup all season. So there's an injury to Isaiah Davis. That's why I'm not going to panic on Breece Hall. But then it's also a Jet. This is bad. If it wasn't the matchup, I'd be terrified of starting and trusting Breece Hall. But I think it's fine. I also think there's some garbage time available, and then there's literally no other like weapons in that offense. If Isaiah Davis is not going to play, which he has already been ruled out, that's really all I need to know. Breece Hall will get that volume we're looking for. So there's a world I'm ranking Breece Hall like 10 spots too low. He could be better than even like Travion Henderson and DeAndre Swift. But then I also just like don't trust the Jets at all. So I'd rather pass. I don't really trust Breece Hall at all, but RB21 with all these question marks, the matchup's good enough. I'll start him, but I'd rather go James Cook in the same game, and I don't trust James Cook either. So good luck on Breece Hall. Maybe I'm too worried about it, but I just don't trust his floor. He's been bad all season. Touchdowns with Brady Cook, not a safe bet ever. But Ashton Genty with looks like Kenny Pickett and AOC are going to be rotating at QB. I don't feel good about Genty. Last week I thought he'd be good. 2 weeks before that I thought he'd be good. Both of those games he was terrible. And then the week I didn't trust him, he went off against the Texans. So I don't understand Genty at all. Genty has made no sense to me other than like a couple games I've gotten it right on it, predicting like good games from him. So, really? You trust Genty? Good luck, man. If you're still alive with Genty, that's impressive. But I'd probably not trust him. Tracy, maybe I'm not believing in enough. But I here's the thing about Genty. Why I'd rather go with him over Tracy. I kind of feel like the Chiefs might gift the Raiders the number one pick. And the easy way to do that is just not tackle Genty and let him give you a house call. Like, I could see the Chiefs just be like, no, we're not going to let the Raiders get Fernando Mendoza. Like, they're not going to get the number one pick, and it's because we're just not going to tackle Genty. So there's a world where Brees and Genty go off. Talent, I think, is better than Tracy. But the volume is probably like a little more valuable for Tracy against the Cowboys. That's also kind of an interesting matchup. But the Cowboys, I think, are playing to win. And then the Giants have like a depleted offensive line. I don't feel good about Tracy. But Jaden Blue in the same game is also going to get the start. We got Javonte out, Malik Davis out, Miles Sanders on IR, Phil Maffa on IR. So Jaden Blue, we're going to see if he can actually play. I would imagine if he could, they would have given him the ball sooner. But he'll get all the volume that is valuable enough. So good luck there. These are my favorite flex plays. I think once you hit Jaden Blue, this is kind of the cutoff point. I'm trying to bench players for the most part. But Rico Dowdle against the Bucks gets a good matchup. Could play well, but has not really shown up since like November. So not really dying to trust more than 10 points from Dowdle. Good luck on that. The Bucks are playing to win for once. And then Jordan Mason gets the start, but against the Packers, I don't know. I just don't trust the J.J. McCarthy offense too much. So Mason, despite the volume, scares me quite a bit. I don't trust the floor like ever with him. And then Sampson, I don't trust him very much. The Browns offense is bad. Against the Bengals, though, that's a good matchup, so maybe. But they have a lot of pieces out in Cincy, like especially Harold Fannin and David Njoku. That's their entire offense. The ball moves through tight end in Cleveland. So I don't know what to make of their ability to even pick up first downs. Sampson needs like some receptions. There's a world where he gives you a lot of PPR points, but then there's also a world where he gives you less than like 8, even with like 5 catches. I don't feel good on Sampson. I don't like this spot. Trusting the Browns last week of the season. But Woody Marks against the Colts. He's been injured for a while, and I think they want to keep him healthy, so I really think he's going to be splitting touches with Jawar Jordan over here, and that's why Woody Marks scares me. I don't think the volume is going to be safe for him, because they should easily beat Riley Leonard, and I think already he'll be in like a 50-50 committee, and then by the time we hit like the end of the game, it's going to be all Jawar Jordan. So Woody Marks, I'm not dying to do it. But I could see it work out. And then same with Ty Johnson. I think by the second quarter, they're going to look to Ray Davis and Ty Johnson, and it's against the Jets. There's actually like elite upside with Ty Johnson. So while I don't trust this tier, I'm trying to bench them. I think this tier actually has like the highest upside beyond the top 20. Like there's a world where these guys just fucking dominate. But then to know for sure what you're going to get is like a huge gamble. So good luck there. I wouldn't like try to start him, but I could also see him pop off for 20 points. Ty Johnson's really interesting. I want to place like a higher projection bet on Ty Johnson this week. I like Ty Johnson for like some upside, to be honest. But good luck with Trey Tucker. Probably gets a touchdown. I think he'll be the focal point on the goal line, but it still feels like it's designed to be Bucky's backfield. I don't really get why they trust Sean Tucker so much. I think it's because Bucky's just not 100% healthy, and Tucker is like the best on the goal line. So Tucker might score a touchdown, but then the Panthers probably limit him as best they can. But if there's one matchup that's good against Carolina, it's running back. So this is like a really high variance play, like high boom bust with Sean Tucker, but could really pay off. The Panthers don't scare me too much in terms of run defense. So last player in the top 30, kind of the last one I'd even really consider, but then Kyle Monungai could always score a touchdown as well. Against Detroit, that game is probably a shootout. So this is like the cutoff point where I'm like, okay, I can understand if you have to start this player, but ideally in like a 12-team format, typical scoring settings and roster, Monungai is like really the cutoff point. I'm benching everyone past Kyle Monungai. But Vidal, I think, gets the start for the Chargers. There's a world where they give Jarrett Patterson the rock a ton, so that's also a variable I'm not dying to trust. But Hampton's going to be out. He's not going to play. So Vidal looks like the main option for the Chargers. With the Commanders, we got both Chris Rodriguez and JCM available. So I'm going to go back to the well on Rodriguez. I think I trust him a little bit more on the goal line, but yikes, I could see this blow up in your face very easily. JCM has made the most of his opportunity last 2 games, but Tyjae Spears could also be very effective against the Jags in the passing game. That could be key. I could see some garbage time for him. Decent volume, I think, in the reception department, but I really only trust Pollard a lot more, so I think I'll pass on Tyjae. And then Montgomery, I don't think they trust him very much to get much volume. Needs a touchdown, needs a house call. Not going to bet on it if I don't have to. Bucky Irving, I've faded fully for Sean Tucker. I don't really want a Bucs running back at all, but the Panthers matchup is good, so kind of feels wasted, but I'm going to bench Bucky Irving. I'm also going to bench JCM. I think I'd rather have Rodriguez, but I could be ranking them incorrectly. The volume's going to be hard to predict there. Against the Eagles, though, that's not a matchup I'm dying to chase against Jalen Carter and Vic Fangio's, 4-3 scheme. Yeah, I'll pass on the Commanders' backfield. But Jawar Jordan I could see as a sneaky option in the second half. I think against the Colts and Riley Leonard, they could be up big, but unlikely for that to happen. It'll probably be like a 50-50 committee with him and Woody Marks by the end of the game. But I think if one's going to score a touchdown, it's probably Woody Marks. So that's my tiebreaker between the two, but kind of at the opposite ends of a similar tier in Houston. And then Ray Davis, just like Ty Johnson, could actually be the guy. He's been like the guy I've wanted to play well, but Ty Johnson definitely has better stats on the season. So it's the Jets. Could definitely work out, but I don't know when he'll take over, if he will at all. I expect him to get the rock, though, in the second half pretty often. Last year, though, we got Michael Carter. Not going to start him against the Rams. Fuck that shit. I never want a Cardinals running back. Kareem Hunt, fuck that shit. Even against the Raiders, all pass. Watch Pacheco vulture you. And then Algier, seems like his contributions have been a little more limited lately. Not the same player in that system these days. So even on 10 touches, not going to bet on much. I think it's the Bijan show for sure. And then we got Jarquez Hunter here because I don't think Blake Corum's going to play, and I think they want to see what they got with the rookie. So by the second half, I could see Jarquez get the rock, but Kyron, I think, is the main play in LA. Then we got Devin Singletary against the Cowboys. Maybe he scores a touchdown, but I'm only going to trust Tracy. Baishal Tutin could also get some work in the second half if it's a blowout over the Titans, but Titans have been playing well enough lately where I don't think that's going to happen. And then Tutin's also not 100%. So I'll bench him. I'll avoid Tutin, but could see some touchdowns late. And then Estime, not really trustworthy with Taysom Hill there. I'm not going to start a Saints running back, that's for sure. And then Chuba Hubbard, watch him steal the show, but not going to trust him at all. Looks like Jamie in the chat. I see your comment. Looks like Rico Dowdle would get $250K with a touchdown. So maybe I'm too low on Rico Dowdle. Definitely bench Chuba, but perhaps I'm underestimating Rico at RB25. But I still kind of don't believe that, like, just because there is that incentive, it's guaranteed. Like, ideally it happens. I'm sure he wants it to happen, but the Bucs are trying to win. There's also a chance that they just don't let it happen, you know? So I don't read too much into those incentives, but perhaps now that I know that, I'd rather go Rico than James Cook. Just perhaps, but not like guaranteed. And then last player is Hunter Lupke, and maybe he'll steal the touchdown instead of Jaden Blue. Like, I want to trust Jaden Blue, but I can't say that definitively. I got Lupke at 48. So that's running back. I'll drop the timestamps later, but let's move on. Let's move on to receiver. I'm going to just check the chat real quick if there are any questions at this position. We got Meter Reader with Sit 1, Kyron, Mike Evans, Diggs, or Luther Burden. I would bench, I think, Mike Evans there. I think I would bench Mike Evans. Meter Reader. I think so, but let me double check. I might have different rankings at receiver. Let me pull up receiver now. Okay, so these are the receiver rankings. I'll rip through that. We do rank Diggs above Evans. Yeah, I think I'm going to bench Evans, Meter Reader. I think that's my decision there. But receivers pretty obvious at the top. We got Puka at number 1. Don't expect Adams to play. I think there's one starter they're going to keep on the bench, and that's Adams. They need him healthy for the playoffs. So expecting the world from Puka yet again. And then we got JSN against the Niners. That's going to be a great matchup. He'll go over 100 yards guaranteed. Amon-Ra, a little banged up, but last time he played the Bears had 3 touchdowns. That was a 50-point blowout, so Amon-Ra definitely a lock in the lineup. Then we got CeeDee Lamb. Should play well against the Commanders. Definitely going to trust him. No way I'm benching CeeDee Lamb. Jamar Chase, not going to bench him either, but sometimes the Browns do shut him down. If there's one divisional opponent, I've actually seen some bad numbers from Jamar Chase in the past. It has been against Cleveland. So that's why he's at the bottom of the top 5, but definitely not a player I'm going to bench. Then we got Michael Wilson, money in the bank, Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm also not expecting to play. He's already been ruled out, so Michael Wilson going to get a ton of volume, and the Rams secondary is a terrible one. So Michael Wilson to the moon yet again, a must start with Michael Wilson. Nico Collins, always a must start against the Colts. Maybe Sauce Gardner limits him a little bit, but not going to panic. Still going to start Nico Collins. And then we got George Pickens against the Commanders. Could definitely pop off for another 20 points. So no way I'm benching George Pickens. T. Higgins exactly in the same boat. We got the 2 Bengals receivers and Cowboys receivers, like back-to-back, respectively. Like there's a tier break between CD and Pickens, and there's a tier break between Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. But the only 2 players I have between them are Michael Wilson and Nico Collins. They might as well be the same as the other alphas in their offense. So Pickens a no-brainer, T. Higgins a no-brainer, touchdown feels like a lock for both. But personally, I'm going to start both Luther Burden and DJ Moore. I am going to trust this Lions matchup. Luther Burden went crazy last week, 20 points from him. I know DJ Moore played like shit. So there is kind of a risk with one of these Bears wideouts. And I do think DJ Moore carries the more riskier floor. I do worry a little bit more about DJ Moore. I should stop the alliteration. I keep saying the word more. But Luther Burden, I do think has proven like very consistent play, especially down the field. It kind of feels like he's more dynamic and like, he's younger. I kind of feel like Caleb has a little bit more of a preference with Luther Burden, but maybe he just gets open more because they put more attention on DJ Moore. Luther Burden, I think, is the better play, but I want both of them. The Lions defense sucks. And then I really think that Caleb's going to go nuclear. I think they're going to avenge that terrible blowout loss in week 2. So I want both Bears receivers. I think they both have 25-point upside. And while one of them I think could be risky, literally in week 18, everyone has risk. Everyone has risk of being benched. I know for a fact the Bears offense is not going to bench anyone. And I definitely want both DJ Moore and Luther Burden in my lineup. So I get it if you disagree, if you think one of them should be ranked lower or like you're just not as high. I think on Underdog, they're really sleeping on these 2 players. But I really trust this matchup. I trust this offense. I trust this game. Ben Johnson wants revenge, and they also want the 2 seed. I really think it's a perfect storm. Elite matchup, high upside, and they're not going to that they're going to finish the game. So I want both of them. I really do. So good luck. I trust Burden a little bit more, but DJ Moore also in the lineup. JMO in the same game I want as well. Sometimes the Bears secondary is good, but where they're good is forcing turnovers and catching interceptions. It doesn't really apply in the same breath in terms of like the coverage from the cornerback play. So JMO, I would expect a house call, expect some deep targets. I don't think you're ever benching JMO. You're either someone who never drafts JMO, doesn't want the volatility, or you're someone that's committed and every week you're starting him and you understand that there's a risk of a bagel, but you don't give a shit. Odds are it's going to work out. Odds are he'll give you 13 plus points on like 80 yards and a touchdown. Odds are JMO is a lock. Wide receiver 12, I'm not going to bench him. But Zay Flowers, I'm also not going to bench. Must win for the Ravens, and Flowers has been pretty consistent. So even last week when Derrick Henry went nuclear, Flowers still scored a touchdown, and you still got like 8 or 10 points out of Flowers. Not a lot of volume. I would expect that to increase. I think Lamar Jackson comes back to the lineup, so Flowers I would trust. Against the Steelers, it's a good matchup this year. Going to start Zay Flowers. But Sutton against the Chargers, bad matchup, but the 1 seed's on the line, so I'll start him. I think the Chargers kind of gift this game to Denver, and really the only thing they want to do is just tackle very hard and maybe bang up the Broncos playmakers on offense. They're going to get the bye, so they're going to have time to rest and recover. But if the Chargers see them again, they want them banged up. So he's going to catch the ball and then just get walloped by Tony Jefferson and Derwin James. So Sutton's going to put up yards, but he's going to leave this game pretty sore. I'd start him because I think he also finds the end zone. Juwan Jennings, I'm also going to start, no doubt, against the Seahawks. It's a bad matchup, but the one seed's on the line. That's the Niners offense, and I'm going to trust Juwan Jennings. I know it's not a great matchup, but I'm going to trust the Niners receiver one in the top 20. I want to start him. I know he's going to finish the game. So he's by tiebreakers in this tier. Then we got Stephon Diggs also in this tier. I really trust him. The volume's high, and I don't really know what's going on with him in terms of discipline. The strangulation charges are not good, but it seems like, given some legal issues that NFL players often have, this is not going to be addressed by the NFL until after the Super Bowl. I really don't think it's going to crop up this week or in the fantasy playoff, in the NFL playoffs. So Diggs wouldn't want to work for him, wouldn't want to be his private chef, but in my lineup, I would expect some good numbers. So start Stephon Diggs in the top 20. Let's keep him in the lineup. I'm trusting Drake May for sure. Against the Dolphins, they're probably going to check out pretty fast. So start him. Chris Godwin's also on a bit of a heater. Really trusted in the red zone lately. So Baker, I think, looks to him as the top option. Let's start Chris Godwin. Against the Panthers, though, it's a tough matchup. I think it'll be tougher for Mike Evans, though, than Chris Godwin. I want Godwin out of the slot. I think he'll play well. Tet McMillan, though, also in the same game. Great matchup against the Bucs. The volume should be there. I would also expect a touchdown. I think Tet has a very high ceiling in this game. So in general, the floor is always high. I know he'll finish the game. It's a must win. Technically, they can lose and still make the playoffs, but Tet will play well. It's a good matchup. I want Tet McMillan in my lineup. So the top 18, I think all of these top three tiers are players I want. But then we got Brian Thomas and Jacoby Myers. Against the Tennessee Titans, they should go off. I think a touchdown for both is kind of likely, but then there's also the fact that Parker Washington factors in, and it's kind of crowded even with Brenton Strange and Travis Etienne. So I want every single Jags receiver, but I think they're all just high-end flex plays this week. Brian Thomas is my favorite, and I think he will have a 50-yard catch against the Titans. At least one deep call in favor of Thomas will click. But Jacoby Myers, I think, will score a touchdown as well and give you another 50, 65 yards. So a pretty good floor play. I would trust Jacoby to go over 10 points. I want both Thomas and Jacoby Myers, the top two Jags wideouts, in my lineup. I trust Trevor Lawrence a lot this week. But London, I think, will play. It's not a guarantee. He's questionable, expected to play, but has not played well. So just a flex play. I'm expecting him to finish the game, and I think he'll be fine. The Saints secondary isn't scary. So London should be okay, but has just not been effective since the injury. It seems like that's legitimately slowing him down. So he's just not the same option. He's just not fully healthy. London, good luck, but just a flex play. Then we got Wan'Dale Robinson right behind him. The volume should be good. The Cowboys matchup's elite. So with no Theo Johnson, with a depleted offensive line, I'm not dying to trust the Giants offense, but I just know the volume will be there for Wan'Dale. So maybe I feel as I'm talking it through, I might want him over London, but you can't tell me London's not more talented than Wan'Dale. So Wan'Dale's just always still a floor play, but the Cowboys matchup, maybe you think I'm too low. I could also understand ranking Wan'Dale almost 10 spots higher. If you wanted to put him over Juwan Jennings, I think there's an argument to make for that. But I think the circumstances for the Niners to win and compete are definitely much higher and more trustworthy than the circumstances for Wan'Dale. So that's my issue with the Giants. They might bench him. Last week, it didn't happen. The Raiders gifted them the win, but ultimately they would like this number 2 pick if they can get it. They would like the number 3 pick. They don't want to fall down to the number 6 pick or number 7 pick. You know what I'm saying? So there is a chance that Wan'Dale doesn't finish the game. That's where I'm not going to rank him over talented guys like London, Myers, or Thomas. It's the same tier, but high-end flex play against the Cowboys, that's the main kicker. The matchup is the most intriguing for Wan'Dale, if you ask me. So good luck there, but a flex I'd still probably start. And then Debo looked pretty effective, and given Josh Johnson doesn't really push it down the field. They need to give receivers the ball in other ways closer to the line of scrimmage. That definitely favors Debo in this offense opposed to Terry, who's running routes 20, 30 yards down the field. I don't think Josh Johnson has the arm to consistently target Terry downfield as opposed to Debo in the screen game. So Debo, I would expect to play well again against the Eagles. I think they'll kind of check out by halftime, so I think garbage time at the least will save you. Debo, I think, will be fine. And then A.J. Brown, I'm expecting to only play like 7 snaps. Like, genuinely, I don't know where the fuck to rank A.J. Brown. Because he might give you a 40-yard touchdown on the first drive. He could also go 3 and out and never be seen from again. You might get a bagel out of A.J. Brown. So, literally, the variance on this is so boom bust. And I also might be wrong. They might play a full 3-4 quarters. I really doubt it. We've seen the Eagles, like, bench everyone after like a single drive many times. So I really don't expect more than 20 snaps out of A.J. Brown, but he could also play great on that volume. So I consider A.J. Brown this week's James Cook. I have them in the exact same tier where it's like, good luck. I think you're probably going to get burned, but then you can also like tell me that they drop 13, 15 points in the first quarter. So this one, good luck on A.J. Brown. Ideally, I'd bench him, but in my top 25, I think I'd bite the bullet and put him in the lineup. I think I'd still start him. Evans, I'd also think I'd still start, but hasn't been playing well lately. So against Carolina, they have a good secondary. J.C. Horn gonna lock him up. I see a lot of risk with Evans, but probably still scores a touchdown, just like A.J. Brown. It could still be worth it. So in my top 25 on like name value alone. But then I got Parker Washington, and this speaks to like how volatile this tier is. Washington has been awesome at times, could fucking dominate, and I also don't know exactly where the ball's going to go in Jacksonville. There's a lot of mouths to feed. He will get some targets, and then there's also a world where if they blow out the Titans in the second half, he just gets like 10 targets in the third and fourth quarter. I could see Parker Washington have another like 25-point game. Genuinely, this was one of the hardest players to rank. This tier, A.J. Brown, Evans, and Parker Washington. High boom bust volatility. And honestly, I don't really know what to do. So this is a good example of why you shouldn't be playing this week, but this is my take on it. The Jags receivers are really valuable, and I think they're going to play all game long and really dominate the Titans. So give me Parker Washington as well in the top 30. But this next tier is the lower end flex plays, and I think there's an argument that all these receiver ones are actually not that safe. But I do think Jefferson still deserves a top 30 ranking against the Packers. They just brought in Trayvon Diggs, but they're going to bench everyone by halftime, and J.J. McCarthy has something to prove. So give me Jefferson as like a solid flex option. I think he'll be okay, but could also give you 3 points. Risky as fuck, man. Jefferson is not a safe play ever, but you definitely know that if you're still alive in the finals with Jefferson, it's probably because you've benched him. It's pretty shocking if you are winning with Jefferson. But Pittman, I don't know what to trust with Riley Leonard, but maybe he's the top target. I'm going to rank him highest against the Texans, though. That's a scary matchup. I could see it really, really go south. So good luck on this, but I think he's the most likely to score a touchdown with the Colts. And then Khalil Shakir, I assume, gets benched by the end of the first quarter, so massive risk here, but against the Jets could also dominate in just one quarter. So good luck on him, but ideally I'm benching him. Same with Devontae Smith. Ideally I'm benching him, but also could play well. Like, I also feel like I'm wrong about projecting them to bench their starters. I really don't know what to make of the Eagles or Bills this week. I doubt they'll be healthy. I doubt they'll be active and playing in the second half, but Devontae could still play well. It's the Commanders after all. That is a good matchup. And then we got Quentin Johnson, who gets Trey Lance under center, but it's not like they're giving up. And I do think that the chances of him scoring a touchdown are actually still like somewhat okay. Like, I actually think Quentin Johnson could play well. But that's probably just my Chargers bias talking. So I would rather bench everyone in this tier. But good luck. There's a world that works out. Pat Bryant looks to be more involved than Troy Franklin these days, and he's off the concussion protocol, so I think he plays. and might get like 8 targets. So could be better than like Drake London. Could actually be very valuable. Not my worst option, to be honest with you. In the top 35, a legit flex play. So is Ricky Pearsall, but Pearsall, even if he finishes the game, can give you like 2 catches for 10 yards, and I don't trust Ricky at all. So I'm only going to trust Juwan Jennings. Against the Seahawks, a bad matchup. Seahawks are trying to win, so I think I'm going to fade Ricky Pearsall. But given the Niners' circumstances, could have value, could be okay. A decent flex in the top 35. But Chimera DK also going to get the rock. The Jags matchup is good. And what's crazy is Chimera DK has a ton of all-purpose yards. He's actually great in the return game for punts and even kicks, I believe. He has actually been awesome, but in a lot of stats that just don't count in fantasy. So he has more yards on the season than, I believe, Derrick Henry. I think he's actually second to only like Bijan. He's insane in all-purpose yards, but a lot of those don't count, and he still gets involved in the passing game, though. Like a touchdown in Tennessee, if it's not going to go to Tony Pollard, would go to Chimera DK. So he's probably still on the wire, but odds are it feels gross to plug him in and start. So good luck there. But at wide receiver 34, I don't think he's atrocious. I wouldn't write him off. Just like A.D. Mitchell, he can give you 15 points. Both of these wide receiver ones might score a touchdown this week. They might actually be safer plays, especially in garbage time. I could see A.D. Mitchell step up. And same with DK, so good luck. It feels gross, but I could genuinely believe that my rank on A.J. Brown burns you. Same with even Pearsall, who I think will finish the game. QJ could be ass, but is dynamic enough, more talented, could still play well. Devontae, way too risky. Shakir, also risky to get benched. Pittman might do nothing against Houston. And then Jefferson could also do nothing with McCarthy. Like, this entire tier has a massive risk of just being benched. So there's a world where A.D. Mitchell and DK are actually the safest plays of this section. I think, honestly, A.J. Brown through QJ, I didn't know what the fuck to do with. I really didn't. So I kind of just like bit the bullet and put them in the flex range, but like everyone scares the fuck out of me. But then once we hit Bryant, it's like, well, all these guys are on the waiver wire or your bench anyways. So good luck with A.D. Mitchell and DK. But this is kind of the cutoff point where, like, after this point, I think you're just like blindly throwing straws. I really don't think there's that much like logic to the calls you're going to make after this point. But Malik Washington will get the start and be the top target in Miami because Waddle's not going to play. Waller is on IR. Malik Washington will be the go-to for Quinn Ewers. However, he gets Christian Gonzalez and the Patriots. So, like, really? You're going to trust the Dolphins receiver? I'll pass. I'm also going to pass on Hollywood Brown with Oladukin. Xavier Worthy's not going to play. Rashee Rice is out, but what the fuck are we getting from Oladukin against the Raiders? That's the only upside, but I don't trust it at all. That's a major gamble. Jaden Higgins, yeah, he blew up last week, but it was on like 2 catches for 75 yards and a touchdown. Like, it was all on one play, basically. Jaden Higgins still has like a terrible rapport with CJ Stroud on the season. Other than one house call, I don't trust Jaden Higgins. So high boom, high risk, high reward. Like, fuck that shit. I don't trust Jaden Higgins at all, to be honest with you. You got lucky if you started him last week. He's a best ball guy, not anything else. And so is Kayshon Boutte. Kayshon Boutte didn't play last week, but will in this game. And it's against the Dolphins. Maybe we get a house call, but watch him get benched or it go to Efton Chisholm. Like last week, I trusted Kyle Williams, and Williams had a touchdown target, and then it got defensive PI called on that play. He never had a chance. The defender was just like right in his chest, and Kyle Williams never got a target the rest of the game. Efton Chisholm was the man. So the rotation in New York, in New England, is tough to project. Booty is more appealing, but could absolutely burn you. Egbuka probably burns you against the Panthers. His volume has slipped heavily lately. I don't trust him at all. Egbuka looks washed. Baker and him, I think, are really banged up. I think that's the problem in Tampa. Everyone's too hurt to actually play up to potential. Terry against the Eagles and Quinyon Mitchell with Josh Johnson. Fuck that shit. He was ass last week in a much better matchup, he'll be ass again. Franklin, I think, is losing traction to Pat Bryant against the Chargers. The matchup's also terrible, so no thanks with him. Alec Pierce with Riley Leonard. I don't trust that shit at all, but maybe he'll be awesome. Against the Texans, though, that's a terrible matchup. So, again, so many red flags. I don't see why it's worth it. I just have to rank 50 players, so he comes in. And then we got Judy against the Bengals. Oddly, the Bengals matchup's actually really tough. But then there's also a world where I thought about ranking Judy in the top 25 because Fannon's not going to play. Neither is Njoku. You can't tell me that Isaiah Bond is safe. And then there's also a lot of injuries to the offensive line and like everyone in Cleveland. So I would expect the Bengals to just double team Judy and let the rest shake out. And that's why I don't trust Judy to get anything going at all. Like maybe he plays well, but to trust Shedeur Sanders, I don't trust that at all. And Judy, I really just think he's going to get double teamed. So I don't think it's worth it. I understand the logic given all the injuries in Cleveland, but I think that's more of a red flag than like a reason to trust Judy. I just don't trust the Browns at all. Then Christian Watson, I would like to trust, but I don't know what the fuck is going to happen with Clayton Tune in Green Bay. If anything, Watson's going to get benched as well 5 snaps into the game. Watch them go 6 and out, and Watson never sees the field again. So maybe he plays longer, but I don't know what to trust at all in Green Bay. I feel like him, Romeo Doubs, and probably Jaden Reed get benched by the end of the first quarter, and it's like the Matthew Golden show. But even that with Clayton Tune means nothing to me. So I couldn't rank a Packers receiver just like the Raiders receivers. I don't think it's wise at all. I don't think he plays more than 5 snaps. And then Ladd with Trey Lance against Pat Surtain and the Broncos defense. Fuck that. I'm not going to trust that at all. Watch him get benched by the first quarter as well. Even Quentin Johnston, this rank feels crazy. So Ladd, I'm not going to trust at all. Darius Slayton, I actually kind of wanted to rank way higher. I'll be honest with you. Darius Slayton, I think, could be the dark horse of fantasy this week because it's against Dallas. That's a good matchup. And we got Theo Johnson banged up. Jackson Dart probably going to take some shots. I could see Slayton actually pay off like crazy, but he's also done like nothing. There's been games where he's just a complete afterthought, and this just feels like so disgusting. So if you want to pick up someone off the wire, maybe Slayton is someone I'm really sleeping on. But at this stage, I'm just chucking it and saying fuck it. Like at this stage of the ranks, it's just for fun. It's just for fun. There's really no guarantee with anyone at this point, so why not just have some fun? So Slayton, some upside for sure, but I could see Shaheed and Cooper Kupp really play well. I could see Sam Darnold dominate, and Shaheed, I think, is the missing piece for them to be a real Super Bowl contender. If they can get Shaheed involved, then I think the Seahawks are actually kind of scary. But until then, they need a second receiver, and they just don't really have one. So it's just a matchup why maybe it could work out, but watch you pick the wrong one. Watch it be an A.J. Barner game. Watch Cody White go off. Watch Darnold just suck. So Shaheed, very risky, but some upside. Same with Kupp. I think I'll pass. And then Tesla against the Bears. Watch him score like 2 touchdowns. Watch Tesla go fucking ham in the final game. Watch him really dominate in the red zone. But Addison, who knows, against the Packers could play well, but I don't want to trust J.J. McCarthy ever, so fuck that. And then Kyle Williams, watch him also dominate in garbage time. Watch them give him a shot. But also, it could go to Efton Chisholm. That is also very risky to bet on a Patriot. So those are my receiver rankings. I'll move on now. Let's talk about another position. We've been live streaming for almost 50 minutes now. So let's rip through the last 3. These are going to go a little bit faster than the first 2. We got quarterback, and this is somewhat straightforward. Like Stafford, I believe, will finish the game. And if he doesn't, it's because they win by blowout. Against Arizona, that defense is atrocious, and Stafford needs to punch his ticket for MVP and redeem himself after last week. So with no Adams, it could be tricky, but I don't think Blake Corum's going to play. Kyron's a little banged up. Stafford's going to dominate with Puka and the other receivers. I think Terrence Ferguson and Colby Parkinson also going to step up with some touchdowns. So Stafford is my number 1, but I understand a bit of risk. If you tell me that the Seahawks lose tonight, then Stafford is not the QB1. I would change these ranks. I'll go live and like change them for you tonight if the Seahawks lose. But I think the Seahawks win and the Rams are going to play for the 5 seed. I think this Stafford play is a no-brainer this week. I really trust him, but that might change if the Seahawks lose and their seeding is locked up. But even if that does, I wouldn't drop him lower than like Dak Prescott. I would still have him top 10. So I'm still going to start Stafford, but it's only the difference between QB1 and QB7 because he might not play the fourth quarter if the Seahawks do lose tonight. If the Niners win, then they're locked into the 6 seed and there's nothing to play for. So watch out for that, but I think that's not going to happen. I think Stafford will be the QB1. May, I think, will also lock up a win over the Dolphins, so he's in the must-start territory. I don't think they'll bench him. I doubt it, but there's also a world where they win big and in the fourth quarter he's inactive. So in that scenario, he also dominates, so I'm not going to panic. I think May will be fine against Miami. Burrow should be fine against the Browns, but if there's one team that gives him problems, it is Cleveland, so watch that blow up in your face, but I think it will work out. I'm not going to bench Burrow. I'm going to trust the Bengals. Purdy gets the Seahawks, so I would love to rank him at QB1. He's been dominating lately, but the Seahawks are a bad matchup, and I could see this be a tricky game. So have to start him. I don't think there's a world where you made it this far with Purdy and can bench him. He's been too good lately, but I also see some risk, a lower floor than you might expect. So the Seahawks are a bit tricky. That's why he's only QB4, not number 1. Lawrence against the Titans could be the QB1 on the week again, but I could also see ETN vulture some touchdowns. I also think he's more likely to get benched in the fourth. I think it's pretty unlikely the Titans compete in this game, so Lawrence I don't think will play an entire 4 quarters. And in the top 5, not going to bench him, but I'm not telling you to bench him, that's for sure. Caleb Williams, I'm also not telling you to bench at all against the Lions. I kind of want to rank him number 1. I think he's going to dominate. They got embarrassed week 2, and the Lions defense is so banged up, so trash lately. Ben Johnson wants revenge. Caleb should torch them. Caleb, I think, will throw for 300. I think he'll eclipse 4,000 yards. I think they're going to make it happen. I think he's going to play awesome against Detroit. That defense sucks. Give me Caleb as a must start in the top 6. But Dak against the Giants, also a must start. But with no run game, that's a little bit of a red flag. It will lead to more pass attempts, but then I could also see maybe Jaden Blue also get some touches. But Dak is a very safe play. I could also see ranking Dak in the top 3. Like everyone up to this point, I think is a must start. Like if you have them, just start them, and it's just my personal preference on how that game's going to go. If I didn't think Caleb was in such a bigger shootout, then I wouldn't rank Caleb above him. But Dak is probably just as safe as Burrow and Drake May. Like everyone in the top 7 I want in my lineup, no doubt about it. But then Brissett, probably a good garbage time game for him against the Rams. I would trust him. That defense isn't very good in the secondary. So Brissett, high floor this week. I trust him a lot. Jared Goff against the Bears should play well. I trust the floor, but maybe there's not as much upside. The Bears defense does catch interceptions. Maybe Goff doesn't have as many touchdowns as he did last time against Chicago. Perhaps it's not as elite, but should be great. I doubt it'll be bad. Then we got Jackson Dart here. The rushing volume should carry you against the Cowboys. That's been an awesome matchup all season, but their offensive line is totally depleted. Their receiving core is also banged up. You need all the rushing stats, and again, I'm telling you to start everyone. But against Dallas, maybe. It's just not the biggest shootout on the week. But I want him in the lineup for sure. I definitely think everyone in my top 10 is going over 20 points. I believe a 20-point floor for everyone in the top 10 does apply. So start Jackson Dart as well. And then Bo Nix against the Chargers, I think will be good, but not elite. I think the Chargers do force some turnovers and do step up on defense. Try to limit Denver a little bit. Expose them as best they can. Bo Nix should get gifted the win, though, so in the fourth, I think he'll get benched. I think he'll be fine, but not elite. Sam Darnold against the Niners could be elite, though. Definitely some high upside, but it doesn't run the ball very much, so that's why I prefer Bo Nix, more rushing upside for Bo Nix than Darnold. But Darnold, I think, also gives you at least 18 to 20 points. Stroud against the Colts should get some touchdowns. I think he'll be pretty effective, just like last week against the Chargers, but won't have that interception He had 2 picks last week, so I'm not going to fully fall off, but touchdowns I think are safe against the Colts with Stroud. Lamar against the Steelers, I don't know what to make of him. If there's ever a team that gives him problem, it's the Steelers, so I would rather bench him. In a 12-team league, I don't want Lamar in the lineup, but I know he'll finish the game, so in Superflex, definitely start him in the top 15. I think he's fine, but not elite. Really bad matchup against the Steelers. I think in general, in the finals, you probably made it this far without Lamar, and if it's a 10, 12-team league, I would bench him. Give me Brissett all day over Lamar this week. So good luck there, but even Sam Darnold, you can probably get on the wire over Lamar Jackson. But J.J. McCarthy against the Packers and their team that's benching everyone, so that should be fine. The Packers don't scare you too much on defense anymore. So J.J. I think will be good at home. There's no weather concerns and should have decent stats in the run game to carry you to at least 16. I think 16 to 20 is the projection in this tier. But then we got Trubisky against the Jets. He could be awesome, but then I don't know exactly when Allen will get benched. But I do feel like Trubisky is the better play in Buffalo over Josh Allen at QB. I really trust that he'll take over in the second quarter, if not the second half. I think he'll get at least 3 quarters from Trubisky. So maybe he'll be a top 10 option against the Jets. It's definitely possible. But rushing stats are the key with Trubisky. Maybe he doesn't run it as much, given he's older. And who knows? Maybe they don't have any receivers to throw to. It is a weird offense without Allen. So not the safest play, but I think he's better in Buffalo. Kirk Cousins against the Saints should be fine, but not elite. The Saints defense at times steps up, but they just gave up a ton of points to Cam Ward. Maybe Cousins does dominate as well. Tanner McKee, I think, also takes over in the first quarter for the Eagles, and against the Commanders, it's a good matchup. We've seen him actually play well when he's taken over. He does throw the ball pretty well down the field. So maybe Jahan Dotson actually is a sneaky play this week. McKee could step up, but then Trey Lance runs the ball like crazy. He'll definitely start over Herbert. Could have a lead upside, but against the Broncos, not a good matchup, not worth trusting. More of like a 14, 15-point floor, because you will get like 60 rushing yards and at least 1 rushing touchdown at a Trey Lance. He'll give you like 10 points as a rushing floor, but maybe give you less than 5 in the passing game. Baker Mayfield, I don't trust as much against Carolina. He's not playing as well these days, and the Panthers are a bad matchup. With the season on the line, I don't want to trust Baker Mayfield. He's just not playing the same as of late. So not a good matchup. I'll pass on Baker at QB 20. And then in the same game, I have Bryce Young at QB 21. Matchup's good, but with the season on the line, I don't think he'll dominate. I doubt you're getting a 300-yard passing game out of Bryce Young. Maybe, but I would project like 220 and 1 touchdown, and then maybe like 12 rushing yards and an interception. Like Bryce Young will be fine, but nothing special. Never trusting more than 1 touchdown out of Bryce Young. Cam Ward gets the Jags, so I kind of want to rank him much higher. I think it's actually sneaky valuable to start Cam Ward this week, but the Jags are a tough matchup, and they are playing for that division. I think they'll limit him too much. So Ward, not effective, doesn't run the ball, and doesn't have good receivers, so outside the top 20, but sneaky. I will acknowledge a bit sneaky. And then Tyler Shuck, I would trust a lot more, but Olave's been ruled out. Without Olave, he only has Juwan Johnson to throw the ball to. So not going to trust him. I think there's very low upside. I think it's fool's gold to trust him, but sometimes he runs the ball pretty well. Maybe it's not that bad, but against the Falcons, that defense has seemed to step up since they've been eliminated. And without Olave, I'll pass on Tyler Shuck. But then we got Josh Allen here, and I just don't think he's going to play more than 1 quarter. So he might give you 10 points on just 1 or 2 drives, but I really think you want Trubisky, who will play the majority of the game against the Jets. But it is the Jets. That matchup's awesome, so watch him still drop 15 points in just 1 quarter. Watch Allen go crazy with like 3 80-yard house calls. Watch him throw a fucking 80-yard touchdown in the first quarter. But then we got Rodgers here with no receivers other than Kenny Gainwell and MVS. I don't trust him. Against the Ravens, that game is going to be do or die, and he doesn't run the ball, so fuck that. With no Metcalf, I'm going to fade Aaron Rodgers. And then Shadur Sanders with no Harold Fannin. That offense is just so inept and depleted. If Fannin was active, I might trust Sanders a little bit more because it is the Bengals. That matchup is good. But without Fannin, there's just no one on offense I trust. Sanders is still not a quarterback I want. And then Quinn Ewers doesn't have Waddle, doesn't have Waller. He's trusting Malik Washington and Nick Westbrook-Akine. Fuck that shit. Even Achan's out. So no thanks on Ewers against the Patriots. No thank you at all. And then maybe Olajuwon is someone I'm sleeping on because it's against the Raiders and he does run the ball a little bit. But he doesn't have Worthy. He doesn't have any pass catcher really. So I don't see the purpose of trusting the third stringer in Kansas City. That offense sucks. Fuck that. So these are the quarterback rankings. I'll give you the timestamps at the end of the video after I log off. But let's go to tight end. And we got 2 more positions left. We are almost done. Let's rip through it. Tight end is very straightforward. The top 5 are really the only ones you want. And number 1 is most obvious of them all. We got McBride at number 1. We have Kittle at number 2, who I think will play. However, if he doesn't, we would have Jake Tonjes here instead. I would literally put Jake Tonjes at number 2 if there's no Kittle. Just give me the Niners tight end at number 2 overall. I'm not going to start Tonjes. I didn't rank him because I assume Kittle will play. But against the Seahawks, that's the matchup you want. And the Niners always score touchdowns with tight ends. So Kittle will be a no-brainer, lock in the lineup. If healthy, the current status on him is a game-time decision. I don't know for sure, but if he starts, you want him. If he doesn't, plug in Jake Tonjes. Jake Tonjes right here at number 2. Then we have Kyle Pitts, who's actually questionable, but is expected to play. Not 100%, but gets the Saints, and I think he does step up, does play well. So give me Kyle Pitts. I want to start him as well, but I'd still go Jake Tonjes. And then Loveland played awesome last week, but still factors in Cole Kmet. And against Detroit, should step up, should play well, definitely a top 5 play. But I'd rather go Jake Tonjes if Kittle isn't active. I'm going to say that for everyone. I'd rather go Jake Tonjes if Kittle isn't active. But Hunter Henry against the Dolphins should play well, a pretty reliable target for Drake May. So he's been in your lineup all season. Pretty safe start. Week 18. Juwan Johnson going to be the top target in New Orleans because Olave is out. So Juwan Johnson going to get like 11 targets. I think he has one of the safest floors, but wouldn't expect a touchdown. Still not projecting a touchdown for Juwan Johnson. So tight end 6, I'd rather go Jake Tonjes if Kittle is inactive. But Jake Ferguson could score another touchdown. Last week didn't do anything other than that. So good luck against the Giants, though. Been a good matchup all year. I think he'll contribute with no run game. Probably going to get more looks. So start Jake Ferguson. Dalton Schultz against the Colts. A good matchup for him. Schultz should have a good floor. I want to start Dalton Schultz. Sadly, last week, our 5-pick entry on Underdog for that Chargers-Texans game, I hit 4 out of 5. I put down $5 and was this close to making $300 because Dalton Schultz let me down. He only had 20 yards. We thought he'd go over 40, and Schultz was a bit underwhelming last week. So should bounce back. I think he'll be fine, but he cost me $300. I was pissed on Schultz. But Okonkwo underrated and Gunnar Helm is out, so Okonkwo going to be a good option. That Jags matchup has been really good this year. Top 5 matchup on the season. Give me Okonkwo in the top 10. Very safe floor as the top target for Cam Ward. A.J. Barner, a pretty reliable tight end as well. I like the matchup against the Niners, so give me A.J. Barner for a reliable 6 targets. I think the floor is pretty safe on A.J. Barner, and odds are he also scores a touchdown. Give me A.J. Barner as a top 10 play. But then the Rams tight end core is a mix and match of Terrence Ferguson, the rookie, and Colby Parkinson these days. Parkinson is getting more volume still, but it looks like Terrence Ferguson is now the go-to option in the red zone. Ferguson, I think, is safer for a touchdown. Ferguson has higher upside and is definitely targeted deeper down the field more often. But Parkinson does run more routes, is on the field more often, and I think has the safer floor. But I want the upside. I want the player that can score a touchdown from 30 yards out, and that's Terrence Ferguson. He is my tight end 11. I want both Rams tight ends in the top 12. Good flex plays, not bad at all. And I don't think Adams will play. So Stafford's going to dominate. The Cardinals matchup is great for tight ends. I think Ferguson and Parkinson are good options this week. But because they eat into each other and cannibalize the volume. They're not in the top 10, but very high upside and floor with both. I like Ferguson more, but that's a player I've believed in all season, and it appears that he's slowly overtaking Parkinson as of late. So start both of them in a 12-team league. I have them both as top 12 options. Brenton Strange, a good option, but a very crowded offense in Jacksonville. So despite an interesting matchup against the Titans, I wouldn't trust a touchdown as much. And then he could also just kind of evaporate with only like 3 catches. So good luck on Brenton Strange, but could also play great. He is pretty talented. I do like him quite a bit. But Josh Oliver going to get the start with no TJ Hawkinson, and it looks like JJ McCarthy actually likes him a lot. 15 yards receiving, high risk, high reward with Josh Oliver. I think I'll pass. But in the top 15, not a player I'm dismissing at all. Then we got Pat Freiermuth as the number 1 target probably for Aaron Rodgers. Not a bad investment in my opinion, but tight end 15, pretty crowded tight end room, and watch it go to Darnell Washington instead. So pretty risky, but against the Ravens, they need someone to catch passes. I think it will be Freiermuth more so than any other pass catcher. And in the same game, we got Andrews against the Steelers. Good matchup, but Andrews is kind of faded quickly. I don't really trust Lamar at all right now, so good luck with Andrews. I think I'm going to pass. And same with Taysom Hill. It was fun with Taysom Hill, but against the Falcons with no Chris Olave, the offense is like so narrow and so obvious and predictable. The Falcons are stepping up on defense. I think they're going to stack the box. I think Taysom Hill is not going to be effective when he gets the ball and runs it. Not going to be effective, if you ask me. So I don't really trust him. I don't really want to start him. I think last week was a bad decision to trust Taysom Hill, but maybe I'm looking at different stats. I need to look at Taysom's stat line again. Yeah, he had a bagel. He had a fucking bagel. He had 3 carries for no yards. We were wrong on Taysom Hill. I apologize on Taysom. But watch him come back with another touchdown. With no Olave, maybe the volume is there. But feels too gross. At this stage, I'm benching every tight end. But maybe Taysom could step up. Dawson Knox, I think, will be the guy for the Bills, but watch him get benched by halftime and Jackson Hawes takes over. With Trubisky, I don't know what I'm going to get, but I know that Kincaid is probably not going to play. Ingram against the Chargers, it's a very bad matchup, so in general, I never trust Ingram unless it's a great matchup. And even when it is, he doesn't give you touchdowns. Ingram is a very low floor play. I'll pass. Then we have Kelsey with Oladukin. Fuck that shit against the Raiders. I don't care. That's his last game. I don't trust Kelsey at all. And then Kmet definitely behind Loveland, but could play well. It's the same argument with Kelsey. Like, he'll get a few targets. It's possible one scores a touchdown, but be my guest. I wouldn't do it. I think it's too risky. And then Isaiah Likely, doubt he steps up, but maybe he's the better play than Andrews. The matchup is good against Pittsburgh, but I don't trust Isaiah Likely. And then Calcaterra is going to get the start because Goddard is out. And at times we have seen Calcaterra really step up when Goddard is inactive. So this is actually a very sneaky play with Tanner McKee. I do trust the volume a little bit, but without a touchdown, you're not going to go over 30 yards with Calcaterra. So high risk, high reward, but watch him drop like 12 points because he gives you a touchdown in garbage time when it doesn't mean anything. Oronde Gadsden with Trey Lance, I think I'll pass. I don't really trust Trey Lance, but the Broncos matchup is actually amazing for opposing tight ends. There's a world where Gadsden actually is wide open and plays pretty well. Jonnu maybe scores a touchdown, but I'm only trusting Freiermuth in Pittsburgh, so no thanks on Jonnu. I think it's too risky, but could score a touchdown on like 20 yards, maybe. He's decent at times. It works out, but it's never really easy to predict. And then Gesicki, maybe against Cleveland, works out, but I don't trust him. I'll pass on the Bengals tight end. It's pretty crowded in the tight end room in Cincy. But Tyler Warren with Riley Leonard, fuck that. I'll pass on him. Not interested at all against Houston. And lastly, we got Luke Musgrave. He might get benched by the second quarter, but I don't feel like he's earned it. And I also think he'll stay on the field with Clayton Tune. So maybe against the Vikings, it works out, but that's been a very bad matchup, actually, for tight ends as of late. So these are my tight end ranks. That's it for this position. And lastly, we got defense. Let's rip through defense and call it a stream, shall we? These are my defensive rankings this week. We got Minnesota At number 1, because the Packers are benching everyone against Clayton Tune, give me Brian Flores' defense for sure. Brian Flores might be one of the best coaching options, and he is coaching for his next job. Their defense will step up. They will beat Green Bay, and that offense will be terrible. So give me the Vikings at number 1. I also have the Bills as a must start against the Jets. That's definitely a defense I want and trust. But the Bills also have not played very well on the year. But against Brady Cook, let's definitely start them. That's for sure. Houston against Riley Leonard. That's a great start as well. Definitely no brainer. Definitely top 5. The Broncos against Trey Lance. Maybe they get burned. They shouldn't. And it should be a must start. But they should be like a top 2 play. They should be like number 1 when you think about it against Trey Lance. But at number 4, I don't think they're as good as the Vikings against Clayton Tune. Then we have Pittsburgh against the Ravens and the Ravens against Pittsburgh. This is going to be a defensive game. You know it. That's always what happens with the Steelers-Ravens games. I want both of them. So give me Pittsburgh. The Ravens offense just not quite the same right now. And even though Derrick Henry's stepping up, I think Mike Tomlin will coach this game pretty well. Give me Pittsburgh and Baltimore in the top 6. I want both of them in my lineup. But then the Eagles are playing the Commanders, and maybe Josh Johnson finds a way, but odds are the Eagles step up and really limit them. But then they can also bench everyone by halftime, and maybe the Eagles defense doesn't do anything, takes their foot off the gas, and you get burned. So a bit risky, but pretty safe floor. Most likely it should work out. And same with the Jags against the Titans. But Cam Ward's been playing better. Maybe the Jags also in garbage time do give up some yards and they burn you. But a good safe floor should be the case with Jacksonville. The Chiefs should be fine against the Raiders and no Geno Smith, no Bowers, and a very depleted offensive line. Chiefs should be good, but then watch them take away the first overall pick from the Raiders and just not tackle Genty and let him put up house calls. Like, watch them just check out just to ensure the Raiders don't get the best quarterback in the draft. But then we have Carolina hosting Tampa Bay. The Panthers, I think, win the game, and the Bucs offense isn't quite right. So Carolina is sneaky on defense. They're fine. The Rams against Arizona could give up a lot of garbage time. So not the safest play, but also might step up in the turnover department. The Patriots hosting the Dolphins could be great, but then watch Mike McDonald's offense just like shock you, and the Patriots kind of check out. The Chargers against Denver, I think, will play as best they can, but kind of check out as well as the game goes on. So not the safest floor, a bit risky. The Falcons against the Saints have played well, much better lately, but who knows? Without Olave, though, I think their floor is pretty safe, but watch them kind of check out because it's the last game. I don't know if I really trust Atlanta. They're so hard to bet on. And then the Cowboys hosting Jackson Dart, maybe they also step up a little bit. But the final tier, I don't want any of them. The Bucs defense sucks. The Panthers offense isn't good, but the Bucs defense is so unreliable. The Saints defense against the Falcons, nah, I'm not going to bet against Bijan. I'm also not going to bet against Kevin O'Connell. The Packers defense maybe plays well against McCarthy, but they're also probably going to bench everyone, so fuck that. The Seahawks-Niners game will be a high-scoring one, so I'm not going to start either defense. I don't think it's worth it, but maybe I'm underestimating Seattle. They could be good, but I'm going to pass. The Bengals against the Browns should be good, but the Bengals defense is one of the worst in the NFL, so why would you trust them? And then the Colts against the Texans, maybe because the Texans offense sometimes sucks. And then the Titans in division against the Jags round out my top 23, but I'm not starting them. Bottom tier, not starting anyone. So that's it. Holy shit, we ran through every position, and let's answer some questions. Let me take just a quick break, catch my breath. We were live streaming for an hour and 15, just straight ranks, and I hope you enjoyed. I hope if you're playing week 18, this did help, but have not looked at the chat in quite some time, so let me get back to it. Let me get this up on the screen. Okay. How's everyone doing? If you're still with me, how y'all doing? Okay. Let's try and run through what I missed. So meter reader, back to your question. I think I'm going to stick with it. Sit one. I think I'm going to bench Mike Evans. I think as long as Kyron is active, I'm going to start Kyron Williams, going to bench Mike Evans against Carolina. And that's the first game of the week. I think that's the most risky play. I'll bench Evans, trust Diggs, trust Burden, and trust Kyron of the three. But here, I'll put this right here. Jamie mentioned the incentive for Rico, a touchdown, $250K. He probably gets some goal line looks, but I still don't feel like it's a lock that the Bucks let him score. The Saquon Barkley, 87 all-purpose yards, maybe, but I really don't think they're going to force it, man. Like I don't think so. This one I don't trust, but I could definitely be wrong. I'm not keyed in on all the incentives. I'll be honest. I didn't look up all the contract incentives. That's just my gut. But Tony Pollard, 66 rushing yards, $250K, 2 rushing touchdowns, $250K. He's not scoring 2 touchdowns. I really doubt that against the Jags. But 66 rushing yards he can do. I doubt he'll get 2 touchdowns, though. Jamie says Ty Johnson, 57 receiving yards. Oh, that one's going to hit. That one I think will definitely hit. Absolutely on Ty Johnson. Albie says, good morning, afternoon. How did your bang? Fuck you. It's the Badge Bros tournament. We finished 81st in the Badge Bros. In Badge Bros, that one really shit the bed. No, that one I finished 310th. I didn't make any money in the final on Badge Bros. Sadly, that one really let me down. None of my running backs went over 10 points. Oh no, I had DeAndre Swift with 20, but James Cook shit the bed. Jahmyr Gibbs shit the bed. Travion Henderson shit the bed. It was unfortunate. And then CeeDee Lamb shit the bed. Adams didn't play. Odunze didn't play. Kittle didn't play. I had Caleb Williams as the quarterback. He was fine, but not elite. The Badge Bros tournament let me down. We were top 10 in week 16, but then in week 17, when all the money was made, we finished outside the top 300. It was very unfortunate in the Badge Bros tournament. But in the Pomeranian, I finished 81st and did win $400. Albie says I shit the bed in the Schnauzer, but won my main fantasy league. Nice, man. That's always the one that's more fulfilling to get the dub in. Highest score of the year and biggest beatdown, 227 to 114. Damn, bro. That is excellent timing. I wish you could have gotten that in the Schnauzer. Bummer, but awesome in your home league. That's phenomenal. Jamie says Jonathan Taylor and James Cook are battling for the rushing title. Taylor 47 rushing yards behind James Cook. I kind of feel like they're not going to force it with James Cook. I kind of don't think that's going to be on the top of their minds, but maybe I'm wrong. Jeff says PPR flex Jennings or Blue. Yikes. Damn, that Giants matchup is awesome. Meanwhile, the Seahawks matchup sucks. I think I might go Jaden Blue. Nah, I'm gonna stick with Juwan Jennings. I know Juwan Jennings will play the full game. Blue, I think, could also get vultured by Lupke and just also suck. In full PPR, I'm gonna go Juwan Jennings there. Jamie saying Juwan Jennings has a 9-catch incentive for $666K. Against the Seahawks, he's not catching 9 passes, bro. Like, I don't think that'll happen, man. I doubt it, but it could. I doubt it, but I would still go Jennings over Blue in full PPR. Just because it's full PPR. I think a touchdown's a better bet for Juwan, but I could see Blue pop off. That one's tough, man. Trust your gut, because I really don't know what to project on Jaden Blue, but I think I'd stick with Juwan Jennings. I think that's what I would do. Jaws says alliteration is the first letters timing up, like calling Jalen Lane the Timu Terry McLaurin. I had a feeling I was saying the wrong thing, but I just kept saying the word more. I kept repeating the word more too much. Said it way too many times. You're good, man. Use that word incorrectly for sure. Jamie says Stephon Diggs, 30 receiving yards equals 500K. That'll hit. That one will hit. 8 catches, I don't know if that'll hit. but then 130 yards and another 500K. I would only assume that one of these hits, the 30-yard. I don't think he'll go over 130, and I also don't think he'll catch 8 receptions. Maybe, but I doubt that one does work out. Evans only needs 666. Oh, that one's going to hit. That one's for sure going to hit. Deebo Samuel, 93 yards is 450K. I doubt that one hits. I wouldn't bet on that one. 10 catches, 200K. That one's not going to hit. 2 touchdowns. Maybe 1 touchdown, but I doubt the second works out. Against the Eagles, I doubt it. If one of them's going to hit, it would be the touchdowns, not the other ones. But maybe the receiving yards does hit. Just because they give him a chance. Also, Dowdle needs 7 yards to lock down $1 million. That one will hit. That one's a no-brainer. Meter Reader says, as a side note, Mike Evans has a bobblehead out today at the stadium for him. You know who had a bobblehead out at the stadium and lost? Justin Herbert. The bobblehead could be fun, though. Even though I watched the Chargers lose to Tampa last year, it was actually really fun to be there to just witness Mike Evans play. A Hall of Famer went off, and I was there to see it. So, Evans could play awesome, but against Carolina, I think they do limit him. I think the Panthers are not going to give him much traction. Jamie says, smoke break. You know what? I'm going to pack one. Just for you, Jamie. I'm going to pack one, but it's not ready yet. Give me like 5 minutes as I pack this and run through the chat. But we will. Oh, we will. We will hit it. But here, I'll change the graphic. Let's show you wide receiver rankings instead of quarterback. Tiago says, hey, what's up? I saw the rankings. I'm up by 60 points going into this week. Who do you think has a safer floor? Diggs, Tet, or Jacoby Myers? I would say probably Stephon Diggs and Jacoby Myers. I think Tet's pretty safe too. They're all really good. I think Diggs is probably safer given the contract incentives that we laid out earlier. Shout out Jamie. Jamie coming in clutch with these. I am not as aware of these as Jamie is. Jamie knows his research. So if we're trusting Jamie here, which I do, I don't think he'd just throw these from his ass. I think he's at least being honest with these. I don't see any reason not to trust him. If Diggs is going to put up 8 catches and 130 yards, then you'd want him in the lineup. So not a terrible option. I do rank Diggs the highest. So I think from an upside swing, I like him the most. But from a floor standpoint, I think he's in the same level as Tet. Tet is pretty safe as well, but I think a touchdown's probably better for Tet. So even though you're up 60, I'm still trying to get the most points as possible in my lineup. And I'm going to trust my rankings and say Diggs is my recommendation here. I could definitely see Tet and Jacoby offer the same 15-point path, but I think Diggs has the safest path of the 3. Not by a lot, but pretty safe. You worry with Booty being back? That's pretty fair. I mean, I wouldn't panic on it. I still think Diggs is probably the go-to target, but if you're really worried about it, then go with Tet McMillan. I have them 2 spots apart, but none of them I think are bad plays. They're all my top 20, so I want all of them in the lineup. If you're really panicked on Diggs, then go ahead because of your scenario being up 60. But I think I'd still go Diggs personally, but I understand going Tet as well. Also, Sutton is in the mix. You know, in terms of floor, I actually think Sutton has the lowest floor of these 4. Like, I definitely trust Sutton. I think he's going to be fine. But if there's one matchup that scares me of the 4, it would be the Chargers matchup. I don't think the Chargers are a matchup you really want to test too often. If it wasn't week 18, then I wouldn't have the, scenario in the back of my mind that Derwin James and all the starters are going to get benched in the second half. I think Sutton will be fine. But if all you want is the highest floor, then go Stephon Diggs or Tet McMillan. The floor, I think, is a bit safer with those 2. But the upside, I think Sutton is pretty high. TG says, missed your running back rankings. You can always rewind, but here, I'll pull those up for you right here. We got running backs right here on the screen. And yeah, we'll just keep this in the corner. These are the running back rankings, so you don't have to go all the way back. It's a fair red flag, but I just don't think it makes me panic. That's my take on it. But I definitely understand the concern that you have. TG says need 2, Monungai, Walker, Bigsby, and Dowdle. Full PPR, half point per carry. Half point per carry. That's crazy. That's a lot. Shit. In that case, I'm going to go Kenneth Walker and Tank Bigsby. There's a world where Dowdle is awesome, but I don't think he catches many passes. I think Walker gives you some receptions, and I think Bigsby is going to get a lot of volume. If you don't trust me on Saquon, which I could be wrong about, but personally I don't think Saquon's going to play more than a quarter, then go with Dowdle over Bigsby. For me, it's between Walker, Bigsby, and Dowdle. Those are the 3. I'm not going to trust Kyle Monungai. And if you do not want to take a chance on Tank Bigsby because you are worried about Saquon, then go Rico Dowdle. But personally, I think Rico Dowdle is not going to get as much volume as Tank Bigsby this week. That's my take on it. I can definitely be wrong, but against the Commanders, I think that matchup's a bit more Rico has those contract incentives that Jamie laid out. We'll remind you, if he gets 7 yards, he locks down $1 million. And then 1 touchdown gives him $250. But this is a must-win game. I don't feel like anything is guaranteed just because there's a contract incentive for it. That's my take on it. So, given you get all the volume points, and then Dowdle's very safe, but I just think Bigsby's going to get more touches, and I think he'll also be more effective as well against the Commanders. So that one's tough, man. That one's really tricky. Your scoring setting really throws a big wrench into it, but I would definitely bench Monungai. I'm going to start Kenneth Walker, and then if you just want the floor, go Rico Dowdle, but if you want the upside, go Tank Bigsby. That's my take on it. Jamie says Justin Jefferson needs 53 yards against the Packers to get 1,000. So that'll happen. I would trust that to occur. 6th straight year joining Mike Evans and Randy Moss in that club. That's definitely going to happen. Definitely going to happen. Actually, it's not a lock. with JJ McCarthy, nothing's a lock, but the Packers are benching a lot of guys. I think it will hit on Jefferson, but Jamie, I don't want to bank on the incentives, but I find them interesting because the player wants it. However, I assume the team would rather save the money. Yeah, there's also a factor of the team trying to save the money, but then it depends on the franchise. You know, if it's the Bengals, the cheapest franchise in the league, then they might try to hold the player back from it working out. But in general, they're not gonna hold them back if they can hit it. But really, I think it's just if the quarterback wants it to happen, then they'll have a shot. The quarterback will give them a shot, but it's never a guarantee that it actually works out. TG says, if Dak doesn't play the whole game, what do you do with Pickens? Start Kittle over him? Yes, if Kittle's active tonight, then I would start Kittle over Pickens for sure. I think straight up Kittle's more valuable than Pickens. That's my take on it. Tet McMillan needs 71 yards to hit 1,000 as a rookie, which would be huge, especially in a division title game. If there's a matchup you would feel confident it's possible, it's against the Bucks. That Bucks defense is bad. So, yeah, Tet might be giving you 71 yards. Tet's a pretty safe play this week. I think Tet's fine. Tet's a top 20 option for sure. But Jamie says JSN needs 256 yards to pass Calvin Johnson. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think he will go over 100, maybe over 150, but over 200, that's going to be hard to bet on. 256, I wouldn't expect that. That I doubt he'll hit. I don't know if anyone's ever going to hit and surpass Calvin Johnson's record. That feels almost unattainable. Calvin Johnston has such an unattainable record there. But Tiago says, I was leaning Diggs and Sutton, but I might switch to Tet. Thanks for the reply. No worries, man. Yeah, if all you need is the floor, then Tet is pretty reliable, but I do see higher ceilings for the other two. Jeff says, thanks for all the advice last month. Catch you next season if you're back. Definitely, I will be back next season. We'll have off-season content, but I know most of the audience only chimes in once we hit September. But thank you, man. Appreciate it. Glad you joined the audience. TJ says, thanks you very, very much. You're welcome, buddy. Total points league, clinging to 4th place. Good luck, man. I hope you can advance even higher. But Tiago says, from what I heard, teams don't actively stop the players from hitting their incentives because it creates a bad locker room environment. They also get a bang for their buck. Yeah, I don't... unless you get a really spiteful owner and head coach, then I don't think there's anyone in the building actively trying to prevent those incentives from being paid out. But the defense doesn't want it to happen. And then Jamie also says Bijan needs 255 scrimmage yards to break Chris Johnson's single season record of 2509. That could actually happen. That I don't think is impossible. It's unlikely, but I could see it hit. In general, Bijan rarely goes over 200, but he does come close quite often. So Bijan, I think, will be clearly the RB1. That's a no-brainer. But will he go over 250? That I wouldn't expect. So we caught up to all of the chat questions. I won't stick around too much longer, but I do want to do one draft with y'all on Underdog. Before we go, we'll do at least one draft before we say goodbye. We'll put these ranks into practice and draft a team for DFS this week. I'm just packing the bowl. We will take a hit, and we will get to that in just a minute. But a reminder, if you're coming in late, if you want the rankings, you can always rewind to literally the very top of the video. I flash them, all 5 positions, but we're keeping them on the screen as well. Just only one position at a time. So head over there if you're interested. If not, if you got any weed, you can smoke it with me. Let's drop that intro. Let's drop the stem pole and take a hit. That was not my strongest. There we go. That was much better. Way more smoke on that one. CMC needs 110 receiving yards to become the first player ever with multiple seasons of 1,000 rushing and 1,000 receiving yards. He's already over 1,100 on the ground this year. That's pretty awesome. That might hit. That could definitely hit. Aaron Rodgers, 1 win secures 500,000. I'm betting the Steelers money line because they play at home. You know, it does feel strange to bet against Mike Tomlin to hit that 9th win. You know, 9-8 for Mike Tomlin feels like a lock, but it does feel like the Ravens are a bit more poised to win tonight. But Mike Tomlin also kind of has the Ravens number. Derrick Henry's playing awesome right now. It's hard to know exactly what will happen. I do think Steelers and the hook, I believe they're 3.5-point underdogs. I think that's probably a better bet than the Ravens to cover. But to pick them straight up, I'm a little reluctant. But I'm sure the money line payout is not bad, given they're not favored. But TG says, I quit smoking and started vaping with the Terp Hammer and Dab Ready system by old head. Cool, man. I'm not much of a vapor. I just never really got into it. I'm sticking with the flower. It's just old habits die hard, I guess. But that's dope, man. That's awesome. I will do one live draft. We're going to do one draft on Underdog before we go. Oh, it is Flower. Okay. Jamie says, just want to thank you for such a great season. Can't wait to start drafting for next year with you. This off season, everyone go watch the movie Skylab. Yo, you found out about Skylab? Dude, there's no way you've watched Skylab. Can you actually get a copy of Skylab digitally? Is that I have a physical copy. I have a DVD of that student film. But no way you know about Skylab, man. You did a little too much digging on IMDb, bro. A little too much, man. But I don't think you can find it. I really don't think you can find it. It was only screened at like film festivals back in like 2007. That sounds cool. I have seen people with what you're talking about. I definitely have tried it, and I definitely like it more than a regular vape. So that's definitely a better way to go. I think I'm gonna get my bong set up again. The stem on it broke, and I think I'm gonna get my bong set back up because sometimes I miss it. Sometimes I miss the bong just a little bit. But okay, so we're gonna hop into one of these drafts. I think we're going to do a Wildcat, just a $3 one, 6-person draft. You draft 6 players, and it's the main slate. So the Cowboys and Giants game, the Browns and Bengals game, the Saints and Falcons game. None of those Saturday games. So no Panthers, no Bucks, no Seahawks, no Niners in this slate. And then you also don't get the final game of the week with the Ravens and Steelers. Those 6 teams are not involved in this one, but it's a half-point PPR setting. If we finish first, we would win $8,000, but really we're investing $3. We're trying to double our money at the very least, finish in the top 3,000. And only once you hit the top 700 do you get $10. It's actually kind of hard to make much money in these, but if you finish top 300, you get 50. If you finish top 100, you get $100. And then if you do finish top 10, that's where it gets interesting. $800 scaled up every couple spots. 2K to third, 5K to second, 8K to first. We're trying to win, but odds are that's not going to happen. Odds are you're going to make less than $50 in these. To finish top 300 when there's 30,000 people drafting, that's actually not that likely. Let's just be honest. It's kind of tough to win. But so sometimes if you can't have a big volume in this, it's not really worth it. But I do like to draft a few of them. Let's hop in the Wildcat. $3 entry. I am hopping in right now if you would like to join me. Which Skylab are we talking about? This is a student film from the mid 2000s that I was in when I was a child. This is a like 12-minute long movie made by some grad students at AFI, American Film Institute, that I acted in. But I believe Skylab is a real thing that crashed down to Earth. It's based on a true story, the film that I'm in. But it's just something from the past that I don't think anyone can watch. I think unless I give you the DVD, no one can watch it. I don't think it's available online. But TG, thank you. Good luck to you as well. Catch you next time. And probably going to log off in the next 10 minutes. Most likely. But maybe I'll do a, what's it called? Playoff draft. Maybe we'll draft a playoff team as well. But this draft starts in 30 seconds. And we get the 101. That's pretty dope. I'm definitely taking Bijan at the 101. Should play great. All right. But where will we go after that? Where will we go after? Who knows? All right, we're on the clock, and we're drafting Bijan. Bijan Robinson. James Cook goes second. That's interesting. I'm not a believer that James Cook finishes the game. Love the matchup for James Cook, but I would not have made that pick personally at the 102. Could be dead wrong, could be an insanely good play, but I don't think we hit the second quarter and he's on the field. That's my take on it. But Gibbs goes to team 3. Bilberoo. And Scoob 13 gets Puka at pick 4. I'm sure Albie would have loved Puka. But nope, gets Trey McBride. McBride's a good pick. Bride is always a good pick. In terms of receivers, though, I think I'm going to wait for Albie to make his pick. Just because I know Albie's in here watching. I assume Albie's watching. So let's not give him my ideas. Albie doesn't really snipe me, but I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. Because also you never know who's... Maybe Rushman is also watching. Who knows? But Jamar Chase at the 106, not a bad pick. I, in these, usually tend to go running back heavy at the top. I think it's really hard to like replicate some of those elite running backs. And then sometimes picking the right low round running back or like undrafted running back is really hard to do. Whereas receiver, it seems like a little bit more spread out. And I personally tend to fade early receiver a little bit. Like you definitely want some elite receivers, but I'm not someone that like locks myself in to drafting elite receiver too often at the top. I'm much more likely to pass on an elite receiver than an elite running back in these. That's just my own strategy. I'm not saying it works out all the time. In these larger scale contests, I rarely make a big profit, but that's just how I tend to do it. ETN goes. I think I'm going to grab Chase Brown here because running back gets pretty dicey moving forward. And I think I'm just going to go Chase Brown. But I have a second pick, so I'm going to let the timer go out, use all the time I have. Okay, give me Chase Brown. And then I do want a good receiver, and I do have Michael Wilson ranked at 6. So give me Michael Wilson. I feel pretty good about Michael Wilson. No Harrison this week, and the Rams defense is not scary. I'll go Michael Wilson. So we got Bijan as the running back, Chase Brown as the flex, Michael Wilson as our wide receiver 1. And these last 3 picks, I have to draft a minimum of 1 receiver, 1 tight end, and 1 quarterback. So those 3, the order is not locked in. I'll pivot on the order as I see fit, but the positions are locked in. 1 receiver, 1 tight end, and 1 quarterback remaining. But Drake May goes off as the QB1. Trevor Lawrence stacked up with ETN as the QB2. To be honest, I did consider Lawrence there. I definitely thought about it. I also thought about Loveland. I do think he's a good tight end to draft in this because Kittle's not available. Neither is Juwan Johnson. Oh, no, Juwan Johnson's available. There's someone that's good that's not available. I'm blanking on it, but I guess it's just Kittle, actually. Kittle, AJ Barner play on Saturday. And then Jatavian Sanders and Kate Otten also play. So, yeah, I guess Kittle is the only one unavailable. We could go Kyle Pitts. We got the Bijan stack, so that could be good. We'll see if he makes it all the way back to us. But if not, I think Juwan Johnson's pretty valuable this week. Let me also pull up my tight end rankings, remind myself where I'm standing on that. So if I'm sticking to my rankings, I would want Kyle Pitts, Hunter Henry, or Juwan Johnson. But really, I want someone for the stack. So if I'm trying to stack up Kirk Cousins, then I can go Kyle Pitts, but I'm not sure if I want to do that. I assume this Drake May team is going to snipe me on Hunter Henry. The only tight end I think might be worth the stack might be like the Rams tight ends. So unless I'm trying to go Stafford and like Terrence Ferguson, then I'm probably not dying to do that. I'll probably just take Kyle Pitts here because I have him ranked the highest. And then what's my stance on quarterback? Got it. Oh, I could go Burrow if possible. No, I understand why Juwan Johnson's ranked higher. I definitely get that. Shit. Now let's go T. Higgins and Joe Burrow. We got Chase Brown. Burrow's definitely a quarterback I would like to stack. I have him top 3. That feels wise. That feels pretty good. Tight end, we can get just about anyone and feel fine. But doubt that T. Higgins circles back. And with the Chase Brown, T. Higgins double stack, going Burrow, definitely solid. I have Burrow in the top 3, so I definitely like him. And I don't think I have a stack viable for Stafford. So let's pass on that. And then go back to tight end. So now I can just take best player available. Kyle Pitts still not taken, but I would assume gets sniped most likely. Juwan Johnson's still on the board. I might go Juwan or Kyle Pitts. Yeah, sometimes I like to let the field kind of make the decision for me. However, odds are, if this team doesn't stack up Dak with Ferguson, then I'm going to be given my pick outside the top 6 in my rankings. So we'll see what happens here. I go Tyler Warren. I would have never taken Tyler Warren. Wow. Okay. Trusting Riley Leonard. I mean, maybe. No, he's going to be low owned. That's for sure. It's going to be a unique piece. That's the thing. Round 6, you can scroll down and take whoever you want. Who am I to judge? Who the fuck am I to judge? Just not where I would have gone. That's all. That's all. We still have Juwan and Pitts available. That's interesting. But Kyle Pitts is a little bit banged up. Kyle Pitts is a game time decision. Expected to play, but actually a bit banged up. Meanwhile, Olave is not active. What did Juwan do last week? Last week, he had 4 for 4 for 95. The week before that, 9 out of 8 for 89. Good floor play, but touchdown production against Atlanta, that's not a matchup I really want for tight ends, actually. Pitts did fall off dramatically last week. 16 yards. Might be fool's gold. Maybe I pivot. Terrence Ferguson's doubtful. Oh, shit. Maybe Grant Calcaterra paves the way. That I actually think could be valuable. Juwan Johnson's by far the safer play. I'll go Juwan Johnson, but actually, no. Let's mix it up. Let's go Chig Okonkwo. I got Okonkwo in the top 10. Not going to be drafted as much. Okonkwo contributes. And he also gets a good matchup against Jacksonville. Last couple games, Okonkwo actually has 13 points apiece. So, yeah, for the sake of being different, I'm going to go Chig Okonkwo. Same type of volume you can scale up for Okonkwo. Like, we looked at Juwan Johnson. Last week had 4 targets. The week before that had 9. Meanwhile, last 2 games for Okonkwo has 7 targets and 8 targets. That's more than Juwan Johnson. He also has 2 touchdowns in that span. So both games he's had more points than Juwan Johnson. Definitely less yardage, but the Jags have been a good matchup this year, and Gunnar Helm is not going to play. So we mix this team up a little bit, and here is the overall board, how it shaked out. We had the 101. We went with Bijan Robinson. When it came back, we took Chase Brown and Michael Wilson, and then stacked up T. Higgins and Joe Burrow for a double stack in Cincinnati. Hopefully this is the week where Jamar Chase does not go ham. Hopefully Denzel Ward really limits Jamar Chase enough to where Burrow pivots to Higgins and Chase Brown. But we also have Chig Okonkwo for a unique piece at tight end who's been really killing it last 2 games. Chig Okonkwo, not a player to sleep on. So that's how it went. We had Albie in here at the 105, and he took a Jackson Dart unstacked. Definitely a quarterback that can be taken unstacked with his rushing value. At running back has Jonathan Taylor against the Texans. Maybe not my favorite matchup, but I also like Taylor as a good pick because almost every year when he's in week 18, he gets like 35 touches. Like they give him so much volume. I do like Taylor as a good pick. So round 3, good value there. And then we have Trey McBride as the stud tight end. Definitely the best tight end to have. Never a bad pick. And then at receiver, you got Nico Collins, Jamison Williams, and Drake London. A little worried about London because he hasn't been playing well, but definitely has the upside to drop 40 if he is asked to do that. Nico, not my favorite matchup against Sauce Gardner, but definitely one of those like elite top 10 receivers. Always a viable pick. And then J-Mo definitely can give you a house call. Always a viable pick as well. I like the team, Albie. Unstacked Jackson Dart. Not caring about this the stack at all. Not bad. I like the team. Then team 6. We didn't like the Tyler Warren pick, but does have a Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb stack, and Jamar Chase with RJ Harvey, DeAndre Swift. I like the running backs a lot. Receiver duo is elite. So if Tyler Warren proves me wrong, then this team is good. I definitely like the Dak selection. Good team at number 6, except for Warren. The Goff team with an Amon-Ra stack, that's pretty dope. Jalen Wright filling in for Achane could be awesome. Breece Hall against the Bills, not my cup of tea, but I could definitely see it work out. And then Colston Loveland, a great pick with Puka at the 101. I like team 4. Team 4 is not bad at all. Team 3 has Gibbs and ETN with Trevor Lawrence. No double stack on Lawrence. I'm a bit surprised they didn't grab like a Brian Thomas or someone, but Diggs and Sutton, not bad receivers at all. And then Hunter Henry, good tight end as well. The Drake May team did not stack up Hunter Henry. They passed for Parker Washington. They have May unstacked with, James Cook and Kyron Williams, and then George Pickens, Parker Washington, Michael Mayer. The Parker Washington pick is sneaky. I wouldn't be shocked if the Lawrence team was interested in stacking. Parker Washington. But I like my team. I like my team quite a bit. I trust Michael Wilson. I trust T. Higgins. And then I got the double stack with Burrow and Chase Brown. That's a running back I think can give you 30 points. And then Bijan should be the RB1 on the slate. More likely than not, he is. And then Okonkwo is a sneaky top 10 play at tight end. Maybe not going to finish as the best tight end, but sneaky option. Actually better than Juwan Johnson last couple games. So I'm glad I didn't go with Juwan or Kyle Pitts. I'm glad I went with Chigo Okonkwo in hindsight. So that's it for that. I ignored the chat for a while, but Philly Mamba with the Vikings defense or Bills defense. I think I got the Vikings at number 1. Pretty sure. Let me remind myself. Yeah, I do. Vikings are my number 1 defense. Give me the Vikings there. Bills I have at number 2, but give me the Vikings because they have the better unit. The Bills just get the Jets. Bills haven't been as good on defense as the Vikings, but give me the Vikings over the Bills. Good luck to you too, Albie. Good luck. I will do one last draft. I know I said just one, but we will do one more. I haven't done any playoff drafts on here, and I noticed that the summit is probably going to fill by... If I had to guess by Tuesday, I think once we get all the playoff seeding, this thing is going to be like 80% already, and then it's going to fill within like 2 hours. So I'm going to do one of my remaining summits right now. I'm going to take some swings on teams that I think can make it there. But I think for your money, this is the best tournament to be entering in playoff best ball. $15, that's 3 mittens. And if you win in the first round, then you have a 1 out of 5 pod, a 1 out of 4, and then a 62-person final. And the final gets you a minimum of $200. I like the payout structure a decent amount on the summit because I also like that everyone only has 3 entries. You're going to get a lot more variance. People aren't going to go like super heavy on their entries. I like that there's a 3-entry max on this. Like, this is my personal bias. But also with only 7,000 people, 7,400 in the tournament itself, I do like your chances a decent amount. But the ultimate goal is to win the pod. You have to win the pod that you're in. So make sure you're looking at the other teams around you and not sniping them, but trying to beat them with a plan to win a lot of money late. I'm also really trying to win the pod. So I'm going to hop into the summit. If you want to hop in, you can join me. Hopefully this fills quickly, but I'm the first person in this pod. 5 people left. So I'll wait 3 minutes. Well, actually 2 minutes. I was going to say until noon. I'll wait until noon. It just turned 11:58. So if this does not fill in the next 2 minutes, I'll leave and I will join a mitten instead. The mitten's not bad, but for $15, I do want to do all 3 of my summit entries. Personally, I do. A shot at 20K. Albie has never tried one of these. Give it a whirl. So while we're waiting, this is what I really recommend people to do before they hop in. Because playoff seeding is so critical. So obviously we don't know how this week is going to shake out. We don't know all the answers on who's going to win every single game. But you should go through and make picks on how you think it's going to go. And based on that information, then you should draft a team accordingly based on those matchups. So I'm going to make my picks and show you what I think will happen. I think the Panthers will win. I think the Seahawks will win. I think the Texans, the Cowboys, the Bengals, the Saints. Actually, no, I'm going to pivot to the Falcons. I think the Falcons are going to win. The Vikings will win. The Jags, I think, will win. The Rams will win. I think the Broncos will win. The Chiefs, I think, will win. Patriots, Eagles, Bears, Bills, and then I think the Ravens will win. So this is my playoff bracket. This is my projected playoff bracket. You will have a different one if, let's say, you think the Steelers will win, then you now have the Steelers as a playoff team. So I would recommend understanding who you think will be a playoff team and who they're going to face. Because if we're looking at this, we also need to factor in who is the 1 seed and who's not going to play at all in the first week of the season. So I think the Broncos are the 1 seed. I'm not going to be drafting Broncos as heavily because I want to win week 1, but then I still think they're valuable. And if they make the Super Bowl, I also want to draft them. So keep that in mind. You want to be drafting teams you think you will play great in week 1 and then win the game and advance to the Super Bowl. You want to have at least 5 players active in the final round, because let me pull up the structure for this. You have to start a minimum of 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 2 receivers, and 1 flex. And a receiver can be a receiver or tight end. Wide receivers and tight end are the same position. So you need a minimum of 5 players every week. So the way I go about it is I pick which team I think will make the Super Bowl, and that's going to be the team that I draft 5 players from. Whether it's the NFC or the AFC, I want 5 players available every single week in my lineup. And I think most likely it's going to be an NFC West team. I think in the NFC, the Seahawks, the Niners, and the Rams are the most likely teams to make the Super Bowl. So I would put them at a premium, especially Rams, because I know for a fact they cannot be the 1 seed. If the Niners win, then the Rams drop to the 6 seed. They will not take the 1 seed. But then Seattle is either playing Carolina or not playing at all. So you got to keep that in mind. When are they going to play? Who are they going to play? But there are some teams we know that are locked in to at least week 1. But do you think the Bears are going to beat the Packers? I do. So I think the Bears are actually very valuable, not just for 1 week, but 2. I think they're going to be on the field in the divisional round. So that makes them more valuable. The Eagles, personally, I think are going to lose week 1. I think they're going to lose to the Niners. If that's the matchup, I think they're also going to lose to the Rams. If that's the matchup. I personally don't trust the Eagles, but they're still valuable. To pretend like they're not would be a lie. So the Eagles are a sneaky team to make the Super Bowl. They're also a team that cannot have any value past the first round. Eagles, not my favorite team, to be honest. But then we got the Panthers, who I think will make it. Panthers are more likely, but really, are you going to draft Rico Dowdle and Bryce Young? I don't know about that. But maybe no one is, so they become pretty valuable if they can advance. But even if the matchup is Seattle or LA, they're going to lose that first round game. I doubt they make it past the first round, so I'm not going to be drafting any Panthers probably. I doubt it, not for $15 an entry. That's not my cup of tea. But who knows? And then lastly, the Packers and the Niners are also kind of dark horses for the Super Bowl as well. Like, you could tell me the Rams make it. They're the favorites in the NFC. The Niners have a good path, but might not be playing in week 1. So the NFC, I want to just be focusing on the Seahawks, the Niners, the Rams, and the Bears. That's my strategy, but I could be really underestimating the value of the Eagles. That is the one team I might get burned on by fading. When it comes to the AFC, that is much different, where I think literally every single team has a shot. I wouldn't rule out anyone. On the NFC, I'd rule out the Packers and the Panthers. On the AFC, I even think the Ravens, if they sneak in, can make it. I have no faith in the Steelers, so I'm not going to draft them. Even if the Steelers win, I don't see them having any value facing off against what I predict to be the Texans in the wildcard round. So I'm only interested in the Ravens, but even that, not dying to do. They have sneaky upside, but in general, I'm not drafting that many Ravens, personally. I think the winner of the Chargers and Patriots game could make the AFC Championship. I think they have a good path. The Chargers, I think, are pretty sneaky because everyone's going to write them off, and obviously they're not a safe team to win with their offensive line. But if they beat the Patriots, that wouldn't shock me. The Patriots only have 2 wins against above 500 teams. Their schedule is the reason why they have 14 wins, not because they're truly the best team in the league. I don't think that. That's my take on it. The Patriots are good, but the schedule is the main reason why they're the 2 seed. So I do think they're beatable. Drake May in his first ever playoff game, who knows what'll happen. Herbert, I think, could play well against New England. And then if the Chargers advance, then you know for sure they're playing Denver. And although that defense isn't a great matchup, the Chargers have a winning record against Sean Payton and Bo Nix. Bo Nix has never beaten the Chargers, and I do think they're going to be okay. Not terrible, but the Broncos probably win that game. So the Broncos are probably making it to the AFC Championship. I would assume that's probably what happens. And then in the other bracket, the Bills are going to have a hard time against Jacksonville. That's a tough matchup for them. Historically, they really play poorly, especially at Jacksonville. They have a losing record against Trevor Lawrence. I do not trust the Bills, to be honest with you. I don't think they beat Jacksonville. They definitely can, but that's not what I think will happen. I think the Jags will win at home. And then the Ravens-Texans game is really hard to predict because the Ravens have had their number. The Texans cannot beat Lamar in recent history. Whenever they meet them in the playoffs, it's like a buzzsaw, and they never advance. But the Ravens are so hard to trust, and the Texans' defense is so good, I would probably fade Baltimore and assume the Texans advance. And then in this scenario, the Texans are either getting Denver if the Patriots win, or they're going to Jacksonville if the Chargers win. And then Texans, Jags, that's going to be a gritty defensive game. That one, I don't see a lot of upside in, but like maybe the Jags offense just plays so well. And then I think the winner of that will be taking on Denver in the AFC Championship game. And in Denver, it's probably going to be a Broncos win. I would assume the Broncos can beat the Texans. In the rematch, maybe the Jags do win. But who knows? Maybe they're hosting the Chargers. That's also possible. I wouldn't rule that out. Maybe the Bills beat the Broncos and have to travel to Houston in the AFC Championship game. There's a lot of variables, and I would recommend going through it, who you think will win this week, what the seeding will be, and then fill out your bracket, who you think will make it. Then draft according to that. So I've been waiting 10 minutes and this thing is not filled. So I'm going to leave this draft. I'm not going to wait much longer. Instead, we'll hop into a mitten, and for $5, I'm sure that'll fill much faster. The mitten for $5 is what I'm joining. Okay, this one also has 3 spots left. If you want one, hop in. I'm just going to make sure. Yeah, we're in the mitten. And now 2 spots. So for this buy-in, it's definitely more interesting. I think this is where you want to practice. The payout for this, I guess it's actually easier to win your pod. 2 out of 6 is what we're shooting for. So in the first round, it's actually not as critical to have every player active. It's not as critical to win your pod. However, it's very critical that you pick correctly in the remaining rounds in the mitten. The advance rate is 1 out of 10 and 1 out of 10 and a 375 person final. 50K to first, but if you make the final, you make $250. So that's what we're hoping for, and it's a tough path to get there. At least we can win this week and probably get our money back. Actually, not even that. We only get $3 if we win this week. We got to finish top 2, and we get $3. Then we got to finish first just to get $10. And then we are hoping to finish first to jump up to $250, and it goes up from there. If we can finish first, we get 50K. So that's awesome, but very unlikely, statistically speaking. Not what I would expect to happen. If anything, I like the advance rate way more in the summit, and I also love that anyone can only draft up to 3. So I would rather do 1 summit than 3 mittens, personally. But I think if you've never done one, it's good to practice in the cheaper one and at least know how it's going to go. But we got Puka and CMC. I would say those are definitely the top 2 most valuable options. And then that team trusts Josh Allen. I believe the Seahawks are going to make the Super Bowl. So even though JSN is probably getting the 1 seed and not active in the first round, I think based on the advanced structure, I think JSN will be one of the most valuable players in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round. So I will take JSN here, even though I'm not convinced he's going to be playing in the wildcard round. So I'm going to need to compensate for that. Keep that in mind. Hopefully the Niners win tonight And JSN does give me points in the wildcard round, but that's not a guarantee. So I'm going to have to overload a little extra at receiver. Keep that in mind when you draft a Seahawk. But I think to compensate, I'm going to go with George Kittle because I think in the NFC Championship, I personally believe it's the Seahawks versus the Niners. And we also guarantee that the loser of this game is playing in the first week of the wildcard round. So not only do I guarantee I have one receiver or tight end in round one, I also guarantee I have another receiver and tight end in round two by drafting JSN and Kittle. Even if, hypothetically, the Seahawks get the 1 seed and the Niners lose at Philly, I still have an elite receiver in my lineup. So I do like to pair up Niners and Seahawks if I'm drafting before tonight, because I do lock up at least one in both rounds. But you also lock up one of them to miss in those rounds as well. So this is a kind of risky strategy, but I've thought about it and I'm willing to take on this risk. I think, especially when they're both active, having JSN and Kittle are going to be elite options. And then I also feel really safe that one of these guys is also making the Super Bowl. Like, I believe out of the NFC, either the Seahawks or Niners will advance. So now I'm going to pivot to the AFC. And we spoke about the Broncos as kind of a risky option. They're more likely going to be the 1 seed. But I also believe they're kind of the safest bet to make the AFC Championship game. And therefore, by hosting a playoff game that week, they're the most likely team to make the Super Bowl in the AFC. I don't want to admit to that. I'm a Charger fan. I want to believe we can beat them. But I think more likely than not, the Broncos are making the Super Bowl in the AFC. I think they have the best path and best defense to get them there. So the Texans have a better defense, but the entire team is better in Denver. So again, I'm taking on another risk with missing someone in week 1. But in this tournament, that's where I think it's most viable to take on this strategy, because you only have to finish second, not first, in this pod. The top 2 teams in this pod advance. Remember that in the mitten. So I'm willing to take on the risk of RJ Harvey and JSN not playing. But at this point, I have to move off of that for sure. So can't fully commit in that respect. But the team I think is most likely to make it all the way is probably the Niners. And then I also believe the Niners are going to be playing in the first week. So I'm going to try to commit to it. But we did get sniped on Purdy. I just missed that we don't have Purdy available. So fuck. I'm too busy talking. I didn't see that Purdy was taken. Shit. Had I known that Purdy was taken, I don't think I would have taken him, because I don't think this side of the board with quarterback already is going to be grabbing Purdy around this turn. And I genuinely thought that Purdy was still available. So I fucked up here. But I don't think it's the end of the world still. I still think you can get past a decent amount of rounds without Purdy, even if you have Kittle and Juwan. Definitely harder. I wish I didn't make that mistake, but still possible to tough it out. Okay. I need some running backs. And I already took JSN, so I'm going to try not to commit to that backfield too much. But I do kind of like the combination of Walker and Sharps in this as well. I do think that's a pretty valuable strategy to take. But you know what? F it. Knowing I fucked up with the Niners investment, let's make the Seahawks our team that we're fully committing to. I need 5 players on the same team in order to ensure that they're all available in the Super Bowl week. So we still have 5 more rounds. That's our second Seahawk. I'll commit to it. Could burn me, but I'll commit to it. Question here is, I do really like the Bears as an option, but I feel like I've kind of already committed to the Seahawks or Niners making it to the Super Bowl. So if I draft Swift here, it's just for like the first week advancement. I do think he's pretty valuable though, and I kind of want to take him. But the thing is, I don't want to take 4 running backs, and I already know that my plan is to take Charbonnet. I'm going to take Charbonnet and see what happens. Swift goes immediately. I need Sam Darnold on this team. That's for sure. I think my plan is to grab Sam Darnold, and then I might go Justin Herbert, honestly. Because against the Patriots, I think Herbert could play well enough, even if he doesn't win, to cover me at QB. And then if Darnold gets the bye, I can ride with Darnold the rest of the way. But if I only draft Darnold, then I might risk a bagel. And I don't want to do that. I'm also risking 0 running back in week 1 as well. So let's grab Hampton. This will be a 2 quarterback, 4 running back, 4 receiver build. And I hope and pray we have the right combo. But Darnold here for that JSN stack. So here's the thing. If the Seahawks make the Super Bowl, we have a minimum of 4 players with Walker, Sharbs, JSN, and Darnold. That's not bad. We would need the Chargers to make the Super Bowl or the Broncos to make the Super Bowl. However, we don't have the roster spot for that third running back. So actually, I am locked in to receiver with that last pick. That's definitely the case. And if we get a Niners Super Bowl, Bo Nix, I don't think is available anymore. So I'm going to have to go with Herbert. I'm going to have to invest in Chargers with these last 2 picks. That's the box I put myself in. But I don't think it's that bad. I think the way I drafted at the top is to advance in the later rounds. And then the way we're drafting at the bottom with the Chargers, assuming I don't get sniped, is an investment in that first game that they're just going to beat the Patriots, or that game is going to be a high-scoring one, which I think it will. I don't think the Patriots' defense is absolutely going to lock up Justin Herbert, Omarion Hampton, and then we stack him up with someone like Quentin Johnston, maybe. That's probably my plan. We got to go Chargers on this. And they could definitely play like shit, but I only need them for week 1, really. Albie, I think I'll watch you do one first. Here we go. We are taking... The team after me only has one quarterback. I'm not going to risk it. Give me Justin Herbert. And then if they snipe me on QJ, I'll be fucking pissed, but I don't think that's going to happen. Interesting strategy here. This team goes all Eagles with Barkley, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. Damn it, they took Quentin Johnston. Fuck. Shit. Damn it. I should have looked at Ship Chasers board better. I was worried he would snipe me on Herbert, and I get screwed with Herbert without Herbert. So bummer. I wanted Quentin Johnston bad, but we can still do Lad McConkey. That's not the end of the world. Don't actually have to go in this direction, really. It could go Luther Burden as well. I can go in any direction, actually. Kind of want to take Shaheed a little bit, but don't think I'm going to do that. I'll go Luther Burden. Fuck it. We know he's playing, and it gives us another team to invest in. So as long as the Seahawks make the Super Bowl, this team is viable. I think this team is fine. But it's going to need... Oh, no, I fucked up. Yeah, I forgot about the receiver situation. Yeah, I fucked up this team. We're only going to have 4. Damn it. Should have taken Lad McConkey. Well, you live and you learn. Bummer. Anyways, Ship Chaser did not go quarterback. Yeah. Bummer. Totally should have taken Quentin Johnston instead of Herbert. Because any team needs wide receiver tight end, doesn't need the stack. At quarterback, you kind of need the stack. Fuck. Messed that one up. Anyways, that's going to be it for me. I'll drop the timestamps. I'll go back and drop all the timestamps on the video if you need those rankings. But that's going to be it for me. Let me just catch up with the chat real quick. Is there any questions? Do I see a wager in our future? As a Pats fan, I'm down. Let's just enjoy it, man. Let's just have some fun. But how about this? If the Patriots win, I'll spot you a puppy entry. How about that? If the Chargers win, you spot me a puppy entry, and if the Pats win, I'll find a way to Venmo you a puppy entry. Not anything too high stakes. I just want to enjoy the game. But I'm down for that. If you're down, let me know. That's as far as I'm willing to go. Jamie says hopefully JSN gets his 256 yards to pass Calvin Johnson. Hope so. Number 3 overall IDP ranker this season. Damn. That's impressive. I have never done IDP rankings. That's impressive. Elite Biscuit says undergoing a dynasty expansion and down to Addison, Chase Brown, Monangai, and Godwin. I have Igbuka. As my last player project for the expansion draft, who would you protect? Okay, protect, not project. Protect. I don't think it would be Godwin. Monangai is a little interesting, but I think I'd rather have Chase Brown. You also have Igbuka. Addison's a little tempting, but that quarterback situation's so gross. Until we know, like, unless Aaron Rodgers signs in Minnesota, I don't think I want Addison this year. I'm going to go Chase Brown. I think I agree with Jamie here. I think it's probably Chase Brown. It's either Chase Brown or Igbuka. But I assume because he's in parentheses, you already have selected Egbuka to protect. Yeah, give me Chase Brown there. Godwin's a little too old. Addison doesn't have the quarterback security. And then Monungai is behind Swift and a 7th round pick at the end of the day. I'm going to go Chase Brown. More immediate future as the starter. I'm worried about Chase Brown's age. That's where, like, in Dynasty, I don't know if it's like the safest thing. Because Chase Brown was drafted at like 25 years old, if I'm not, like 24, 25. He was a 5-year starter. He's older than you would think. I think he's like 26 or 20. No, he's not 27. I think he's 25 or 26 right now. Chase Brown is older than you might think, but I think he still has like 3 years left as the guy in Cincy. So I would go Chase Brown. Good luck. Good luck, Elite Biscuits. I hope those biscuits are nothing but elite. All right, that's it for me. Peace out, everyone. Oh, we'll take one final hit. And then I'll say goodbye.